bigger salaries on fuel and diesel to transport themselves home. And instead of us concentrating on solving that problem for the public, we are seeking to exempt ourselves from this suffering that the members of the public, who are the taxpayers on whose back we are all being paid, we are seeking to exempt ourselves from that suffering. Let us all join the traffic. If it is difficult, then let's go and fix the problem.
There, and reflecting the views and concerns that many people had about this LI that sought to allow members of parliament use sirens and then also have no speed limits on our roads. In fact, a number of concerns were raised about this. Obviously, that's what led to the withdrawal of this LI. Had to be forcefully withdrawn. Well, this morning, it's not that this LI will not come back to Parliament. What we're hearing is that they're going to rework it to see if it's going to address the concerns that the people had about this. But is it really necessary, even in the first place? Well, we'll touch on this briefly, but good morning, welcome to Key Point here on TV3. We're live on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook and DSTV channel 279 all across the world on 3news.com. We're a number of radio stations across the country as well. Welcome. Now, the much anticipated Supreme Court decision on whether to restrain Parliament from transmitting the Human and Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill, popularly known as the Anti-LGBTQ+ bill, to the President for his assent, will be delivered at a later date. Well, the plaintiffs are seeking an order to restrain the President from assenting to this bill, arguing that such an action would directly contravene the constitutional safeguards protecting the liberties and rights of Ghanaians. But then again, also the conversation about the financial implications of this bill. Well, one of the sponsors of this bill, this anti-LGBTQ+ bill, is going to be joining us in the studio this morning. We'll have a conversation analyzing this decision by the courts to help our viewers make informed judgment on this particular case. So this is one that we'll spend some time with here on Key Point. We'll hear from the Chief Justice reason why they even decided to adjourn these two cases of Richard Delasky and Dr. Amanda Odoi indefinitely. Stay with us here on Key Point. Now, the question on the minds of many is that will this anti-LGBTQ+ bill ever become law? Because with what is happening now, the proponents of this bill are only just looking at how things are playing out in court and bearing in mind that the life of this parliament, this 8th parliament that has done its job on this bill, this anti-LGBTQ+ bill, will die in the coming months. In fact, on the dawn of January 6th, the life of this 8th parliament will end. And will this bill and all the work that has been done with it end with it? And it doesn't become law? Then the whole process will have to start all over again. We'll find out if that's a fear, that's a concern that the proponents of this bill have. Also, government has withdrawn this LI, as we saw over the week with members of parliament, which we will touch on here on Key Point. Now, a number of matters came up which we'll sink our teeth into, and why this is not even necessary. Also today on the show, the latest democracy risk report by Afrobarometer has indicated that 87%, representing almost 9 in every 10 Ghanaians believe the country is heading in the wrong direction. Well, the report also shows a growing majority of people calling for government accountability and the rule of law and support for other democratic norms, also holding steady over the past decade, including presidential accountability to Parliament, multi-party competition, presidential term limits, and media freedom. Yeah, we'll have a conversation on this report and situate it within the general cost of living amidst the increase in petroleum prices and transport hikes today on Key Point. The cost of living conversation is hot on the table here on Key Point on TV3, also live on 3FM 92.7. And look, we spent some time in the market yesterday just to have an idea of how things are playing out. What you're seeing, for those listening to us on the radio, we visited a number of the markets across the country, in the northern region, the Ashanti region, in the western region, some part of the Volta region, and also here in the Greater Accra region, to have a fair sense of what is happening so that we will speak based on facts. The General Agricultural Workers Union and the Peasant Farmers Association, they'll be joining us because we want to understand this. We are actually in the harvesting season. Did you know this? And they say that it's quite strange for prices of food items to be going up in the harvesting season. But there's a reason. They'll tell us here on Key Point. Stay with us. But Alfred Ocansey, on behalf of the rest of the team, I'll go for this quick break. When we're back, my guest already in the studio, who have a conversation this morning as always. Stay tuned.
Closer to your champion. Like my 100-meter sprinter.
Patrick Chinyemba, flyweight category.
BMX racer.
Stay connected for every medal moment from the 2024 Paris Olympic Games. Get closer to your champions with Supersport on DSTV, the home of entertainment.
Now is an opportune moment for investors to consider the remarkable investment opportunity presented by the Floria Residence, the pinnacle of luxury living in Cantonment. Offering a range of options from executive studios to lavish penthouses, including 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and 3-bedroom apartments. Amenities and services includes round-the-clock security services, dedicated play areas, a bustling commercial zone, state-of-the-art fitness facilities and gym, a well-appointed conference room, an elegant rooftop sky bar, and a breathtaking rooftop infinity swimming pool. Additionally, residents benefit from the convenience of a secured 3-floor underground car park, while those residing in the ocean view penthouses enjoy unparalleled vistas. We are located opposite the Laboni Palace Mall, Accra. Contact us on 0595700008.
Yes.
Star 712.
Picture this. Coming in Greece. A giant. Yeah. And now you were back in Greece. To say, why you fit a millionaire? Yes, the luckiest at Aroma. To say, about from Massa Echeman. Yeah. Now check this. Sister Abna, aka Kobe Hima. The luckiest at the room. Queen B.
Yeah.
Boss lady back up there. Let's go. Hold on to your seats, folks. Such anyway, it'll be you smooth. Where you enter your friend will upgrade. Luckiest Adaroma. And the best part that with the luckiest, Obia were a shot to a good life. And I'm talking to you, me, your girlfriend, your ex, your neighbors, your landlords, and even Goro voice. And no one is over dialing with lucky number. *712#. No.
Oswaldo ticket to win in the community draw or the grand draw on the 30th of November 2024. The luckiest is regulated by the NLA on the Caritas platform, not for persons below 18 years. T&Cs apply.
Dreaming of Asia with your family? Let's make it happen. Join Global Wings Travel and Tours for a 9-day all-inclusive tour of Malaysia and Singapore from September 9th to the 18th, 2024. Experience the best of Malaysia and Singapore. Visit famous tourist sites in both countries. Take car cable rides, try local foods, and relax in luxurious hotels. This incredible package includes return air ticket, Malaysia visa facilitation, 9 nights in a 4-star hotel, daily breakfast and dinner, all taxes, airport transfers, and travel insurance. Join Global Wings this September and create memories that will last a lifetime. Book now by calling or WhatsApping 0553 688 398 or 0550 188 181.
This is Hot Issues, your passport to the most compelling conversations of our time. We go one-on-one with the movers and shakers, the thought leaders, and the game changers. We ask the questions that matter, and we don't back down.
Tonight on Hot Issues, I sit with the man at the center of corruption investigations.
Join me on Hot Issues here on TV3.
Hot Issues shows Sundays at 2 p.m. on TV3.
TV3, first in news.
The search for Ghana's most beautiful heats up. The ladies will showcase the beauty, culture, and traditions of their regions in a celebration of elegance and charm. Who will impress the judges and win the hearts of Ghanaians, earning the spots in the top 16. Watch as they justify their inclusion and discover what makes their heritage unique. Don't miss the excitement this Sunday on Ghana's most beautiful, redefining culture and beauty.
True Ghanaian woman, you are
This season, Ghana's Strongest is back with a powerful twist. This is the Duo Edition. Watch as our able-bodied male and female athletes compete in this season's Ghana's Strongest, showcasing their strengths, endurance, and determination. Who will rise to the challenge and claim the title of Ghana's Strongest 2024? Catch all their action, the triumphs, and the unforgettable moments. Ghana's Strongest 2024, Sunday 4 p.m. only on TV3. Ghana's Strongest. The power to do. Brought to you by
Deluxe Acrylic Paint, Kivo Foods,
Dragnet, Mixi Choco, Channel Hot,
Frutelli Calipo.
She left her corporate job at 26. Here in Ghana, who does that?
Growing up, I've always wanted to do something different, something on my own. I didn't study fashion design. My background was in visual arts and then graphic design. But at a point, I felt that I wanted to do something with the African print.
She has thrived on collaborations and, of course, partnerships to establish M. Simpsons to see it grow to the point where it is today.
Most of the contracts that we've done before, I didn't go bidding for them. People actually called and said, oh, we're in a meeting and somebody mentioned your name.
Came up.
Your name came up. Somebody meets you and says, oh, Mabel, I know you have seen your work on social media. Come and do this for us.
She's our guest on Today's Woman this week, Saturday, 3 p.m. right here on TV3 with me, Cookie. Make sure you don't miss it.
Today's Woman with Cookie T shows Saturdays at 3 p.m. on TV3. Brought to you by Vlisco.
All sporting disciplines matter on Warm-Up Plus.
Warm-Up Plus, the most exciting hour on TV. So join the conversation and get updated.
Get sports news, visit exciting places, and be in the know on Warm-Up Plus. Let's go, Diana.
We're just getting started.
We're just getting warmed up.
Catch me, Yao Ufusulabi.
And me, Aniela Alote, every Saturday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. only on TV3.
Well, welcome back to Key Point on TV3. We're live on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, and DSTV channel 279, all across the world on 3news.com. We're also on a number of radio stations across the country. As always, feel free to share your thoughts with us. We're very, very interactive this morning here on the Key Point. Well, this week, we saw something that happened at the Supreme Court, and I want to start off that very quickly. The Supreme Court of Ghana on the 17th of July deferred its decision in this interlocutory injunction application filed by Richard Delaska and Dr. Amanda Odoi, seeking to bar Parliament from transmitting the anti-LGBTQ plus bill to the presidency for assent. Well, the Chief Justice who chaired this panel on these two cases had this to say after the decision by the court on Thursday. Take a look.
Enabling this court to deliver a more informed, comprehensive, and just decision that accounts for all relevant circumstances and factors in this important matter. Such a unified approach will further provide context and clarity, and also afford a clearer understanding of the issues raised in this interlocutory matter and their impact on the main suit. Having therefore diligently analyzed all the material processes on the record in this instant application and listened to oral submissions by learned counsel for the parties, our decision is to reserve our verdict on the interlocutory application until the final determination of the substantive suit, at which point we will render a comprehensive judgment that addresses all aspects of the case, including the current application for injunction. In conclusion, the decision of this court on this application for an interlocutory injunction is hereby deferred to abide the outcome of the determination of the substantive suit.
My Lord, we are grateful. Lady, I believe that is fair and equitable, and we cannot but say we are grateful. My Lord, we are also grateful.
Well, that's what happened in court, in fact, on Wednesday. And what this means is that with this case being adjourned indefinitely, well, those who are watching how things are playing out in court, especially the proponents of this anti-LGBTQ plus bill, have one question on their minds: whether this bill will ever become law. And if you recall, the last time we had this conversation, a number of my guests, including lawyer Martin Pebo, indicated that with the way things are going, and to the extent that there's a legal vacation in the next couple of weeks, and Parliament, obviously, well, they've done their job, but they would adjourn, come back and then adjourn again to go and campaign ahead of the December 7 election. If these timelines are anything to go by, maybe, just maybe, all things being equal, this anti-LGBTQ plus bill may never see the light of day or ever become law in this country. And if the life of this parliament ends, this bill ends with it, the whole process will have to start all over again in the next parliament. Well, the Attorney General, Minister of Justice Godfrey Adame, has a few words to share after this decision by the courts on Wednesday. Take a look.
The court things can be better dealt with in a substantive action. And it's permissible for a court to do that. There's nothing unusual at all. The court actually referred to an existing rule on injunctions. And so I think that the court is fair in coming by that approach. I mean, if at this stage the process have not been transmitted, and there must be a reason for that. The reason is that there was this application for interlocutory injunction pending, and the court has still not disposed of the application for interlocutory injunction. The court said the determination of that application for interlocutory injunction should abide the determination of the main case, and for that matter, it is reserving its determination until the main action is heard. It tells you that the application for interlocutory injunction is still pending, has not been disposed of, and so I think that would be the proper course to take. I still have to follow my processes, and that will be the first point for me to take. So it's a matter of complying with the rules of court. I have to comply with the rules of court first before you think about an expeditious hearing. So the question of an expeditious hearing of the main case does not arise at this stage until all processes have been filed and the parties are ready to move forward. You heard counsel for the first defendant even talking about an application for a consolidation that has to be made, and that has not been done. So I do not think that there's a need for us to be consider the question whether.
For the injunction application, it appeared as though the AG's office did not have a position as to whether it should be injuncted or not. We were concerned about certain questions of laws being answered. Is that the same approach for the substantive case? I think that's the main issue. I mean, the point is that the country ought to know that we're a country governed by a constitution. The constitution that prevails over everyone. We're all under the constitution and the laws of Ghana. And therefore, the actions of every person must be determined within the premises of the law. Same as a person can even question my constitutional right to prosecute in this country. We have seen that many times. Citizens of the country even file applications to the Supreme Court questioning the Attorney General's power to enter another prosecution in a certain matter and that kind of thing. And it comes up for determination in the Supreme Court. It's the same way that a decision or an action taken by Parliament can be questioned by citizens of the country. And so for me, the questions are raised during the hearing of the application for interlocutory injunction were ones that for me have not been determined in this country, and today it has not been determined. It's the very first time that a private member's bill is, or issues regarding private member's bill are coming up for determination. Because private members' bill are quite novel. It occurred only in the time of the former Parliament, the 7th Parliament, headed by Speaker Professor Michael Quay. It was in his time. Of course, it was with my help as Deputy Attorney General that we all sat down, we had a roundtable conference, and then we sat down to craft ways of empowering Parliament to engender or produce its own bills. And it was in the time of the last Parliament headed by Professor Quay that the first private members' bill was passed, and really was without controversy because it did not have any implications for the taxpayer. Now, there are a lot of bills being churned through Parliament now on account of private members, which really have implications for the public purse. And I think for me, as the Attorney General of the Republic, is a question of important consideration that the court ought to really consider. Because since 1957, as I indicated to the court, since 1957, every constitution the country has had, apart from the 1961, has had provisions on Article 108, provisions akin to Article 108 in it. And there has not been any case at all filed questioning the circumstances, the ambit, or the extent to which a person can commence a bill which has implications for the taxpayer, but which do not go through the requirement of Article 108. So I think the court ought to consider such a question. And as I indicated, is a case where every person in the country ought to know that his action ought to be in accordance with the Constitution, and we all live under the Constitution of the country. And that's a country that we all seek to build. It must be in accord with fairness, and that's why we say it's a country governed by freedom and the rights of people and all that.
Has been in accordance with fairness and the freedoms and rights as we talk about in this country. That's the Attorney General, Minister of Justice, Godfrey Adame. And we decided to play the full complement of this because taking out some of it and playing part of it may not represent the full context and his position on this matter. Essentially, agreeing with the courts on this decision to defer judgment on this particular anti-LGBTQ plus the interlocutory injunctions, the two of them, to a later date. Because as we heard the Attorney General say, that the determination of the interlocutory injunction must, from his argument, abide by the outcome of the main case before the courts. Well, there are some who disagree. Well, joining me in the studio on a very wet and cloudy morning in most parts of the capital and across the country. We're monitoring that quite closely. The Ghana Meteorological Agency gave a weather warning, which we're also corresponding with them to see how the rest of the day will look like. But it's been a generally wet morning. Thankfully, my guests, in the commitment for the development of this country, contributing their quota and ideas on this platform, have made it on the show because they have this country at heart. Martin Pebo is a private legal practitioner. He is the leader of one of three individual bondholder groups and also the convener of the Komipreko Reloaded demonstration. Lawyer Martin Pebo, good morning. Welcome.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Ocansey. Morning. It's good to be here.
Indeed.
This is a program Ghana listens to, right?
Indeed.
And as usual, let me greet Kentucky Teku Churu. Yeah, our beloved Kentucky Teku Churu for wading into the Cecilia Adapa matter. You know, now that's my signature tune for this program. Because if we had all the chiefs getting up and wading into such matters, I'm sure Ghana would be a different country.
Indeed.
We don't want the praise singing. So Kentucky Teku Churu is asking government that how can one woman have so much money under her bed and you say that is okay? How can Cecilia Adapa have so much money in her room and you say that is okay? You don't see any crime. Come on. Okay. And then let me also agree.
I was asking, what's the latest on that case? I mean, as far as I do know now, the monies have been released to her. The monies that were seized by the OSP in her house, and then also the ones that were in the account, the bank accounts, have been released to her.
Absolutely.
She has the right to spend the money.
Absolutely. Can you imagine?
So what's become of the case? Would you agree with the public if they say this case has become a dead case or a foolish case?
Ghanaian English.
Because if the money has been released, which was one of the major issues of contention, and she has probably spent the money, well, what are we chasing right now?
There are chances we can recover from her because I think she has some properties, right? We can recover when we win the case in court. So what's happened is that the OSP is still investigating a certain angle of it. Then the IOCO is the one that has refused to investigate because of the wrong advice from the Attorney General. And we are challenging the advice in court. I told you,
You've gone to court on this matter?
We've gone to court on the advice the AG gave. Very wrong advice. Professor Jampo and I, we sued about a week ago.
I see. So, that the IOCO should not pursue the the money laundering part of this case.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no grounds for that.
Yes.
You are challenging the AG in court.
Yeah, we are challenging the AG. Yeah, we filed a week ago. So we'll see how. We know we will not go into the merits, but we'll see how that pans out. So in the coming weeks, I told you that's not the only one. There are other cases. I'll just wait one by one when we file. Your timing always has to be right.
That's right.
We filed it a week ago, so we'll see how it pans out. We can't go into merits.
Indeed, certainly.
We've sued the IOCO and the Attorney General. So let them come to court and tell us which law says that you must find a predicate offense before you say there's money laundering. That was under the old law. It's been repealed. It's been repealed. Right. That's the thing about 1044, right? It has repealed 749 and the other laws, the old anti-money laundering law. So let's see what the courts will say, and then we'll take it from there.
It's important. Thank you.
And let me also greet Mahini. Yes. Osi Adeyo Ajiman Bedu II. Yes. We should allow him for all his brave efforts at asking for accountability, and especially in light of the fact that now he's been quiet for the last few months. Look, Domahini, we can't wait to hear you, return to fire on those issues, because these are trying times. Like I keep saying, the book, where's my favorite book? T-Pain, all right? It always takes one man. I always like that story. When the Americans were unsure, they didn't want to fight the British, their colonial masters. That time, America had just 13 colonies. It was far smaller. It wasn't as big as today. But the British were colonizing them, and it was horrible. They didn't want to fight, just like the way Ghana, it took Kwame Nkrumah to say, no, independence now. But when T-Pain wrote that book, it kind of kindled their spirits. He roused them to get up and to overthrow the Americans. And then they had the independence war. The rest is history. That's how they broke off the shackles of the British. So you always need one man, like what Honorable Okujeto did. This Snake Hotels matter, right? Yes, and the third matter, please, Auditor General, the matter of the 52.5 billion. Look, this report has been outstanding for 4 years. Kofi Aflu petitioned Parliament. Parliament has been pussyfooting on it. Mr. Johnson, Esiedu, can you do something about this report? One report, 4 years. One report, 4 years. Can you imagine? No, we can't do that. Listen, Ghana has to be stronger. And finally, today I brought a tube of yam for our cost of living analysis. So let's wait.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for this. And we actually have some tomatoes as well. So we want to have this conversation as practical as possible. I didn't know you were bringing.
Yesterday, I went to 2 markets. Kaneshi, there's not quite railways where they sell the tomatoes. I went to buy a box of tomatoes. Then a colleague also 2 hours later went to buy, and the price came down, 800 Ghana, etc. Then went to Tema Station as well. So I've learned a few things. So we'll see.
Now at this point, the men have to go to the market themselves. This tuber of yam will make a difference this morning. Oh my goodness. Anyway, Nelson Roxon Dafiamekbo is a member of Parliament for the South Dyke constituency. He is a private legal practitioner as well. He is a member of the Constitutional Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee of Parliament. He is one of the...
I'm no longer.
Oh, they've taken you off?
Yes.
So, what do I say? Do I say sorry about that or what?
Oh, well,
you've been reassigned.
I'm serving that committee for nearly 8 years. So.
Okay.
And this happened just... Yes, this was last week, eh?
This about
but now that you've
4 days ago.
You've matured into the role.
It's all right.
Well, they think that I'll be more useful in some other committees. So now I'm in subsidiary legislation committee.
Okay. All right.
Okay. I used not to be a member, but now I'm a member.
Okay.
And but then, it is that committee that's even considering this.
Yes.
The work that you've done.
Considered.
The work you've done on this anti-LGBTQ. But for more importantly, he is a member of, in fact, he's one of the 7 MPs who sponsored this anti-gay bill.
It's not anti-gay bill.
Well, what is it now?
Guardian Family Values Bill.
Also known as?
Well, I don't know. You journalists have given it other names.
But that's what
it's a Ghanaian Family Values Bill.
That's all.
That's for a Ghanaian family values.
Indeed. Also known as. I don't think it's wrong to make
I don't know any also known as.
I don't think it's wrong to do. But there are a number of other persons who will also be joining us on Zoom. The Advocates for Christ. I think they are the ones who also supported you in this process.
Yes, they did.
They are also not too happy about how things are playing out. They will join us briefly to have a conversation on this. But it's good to have you. Welcome.
Yes, thank you very much. Good morning to you. Good morning to Senior Kwebu.
Good morning,
and good morning to the generality of the people, especially my people in Peki, Kwali, Kwebetongo. From here, I'm visiting the constituency.
I see. Interesting. My people who are from Peki, Blengo, and...
But you don't come home. You should be visiting home. Ocansey. Blengo, Ocansey is an indigenous, but he doesn't visit home.
My real roots are in Adan.
It's immaterial. You have some roots also in Peki.
Indeed.
In Blengo.
Yes.
So
And then Central, but it's
Yes.
also
So it's a proper Ghanaian.
Yeah, like me.
Agona Konyako is where my mom is from. Anyway,
we
thank
all
you.
have our roots.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming. Nana Ohening-To
yes.
Also is former General Secretary of the ruling NPP. Also served in a number of capacities. He's been a journalist before. Now the senior advisor to the leader for the Movement for Change, Alan Kojo Chemanting, is going to be joining us in a bit. And also let me announce that as we go on, the former Auditor General of the Republic of Ghana, and then now one of the foremost voices on issues of anti-corruption or the fight against corruption, Daniel Yao Demelovo, will also be joining us as we go on here on the Key Point. So stay with us. We'll have a big conversation. Well, let me start off with you. This outcome of this hearing on Wednesday on this Ghanaian Family Values Bill, you have done your work as Parliament, but now the courts have determined that they would rather defer judgment on the interlocutory injunction against this bill, in fact, against Parliament transmitting this bill to the presidency to be accented into law indefinitely. And in the argument of the Attorney General, the court has still not disposed of the applications for the interlocutory injunction. That's number one. The court is also just saying that the determination of that application for that interlocutory injunction should abide by the determination of the main case. And for that matter, it is reserving its determination until the main action is heard. What's your issue with that?
You see, I'm trying to brief in heavily. It's and Kwebu is here. It's my senior in the law. It's a sad day for those of us in practice that this is happening. It's more sad because this is happening at the highest level of our judicial institution, which is the Supreme Court. So it's an example, as we say, it will become a precedent that other lower courts may copy, may follow. But it is not a good precedent. It's not a good precedent. I have read loss of authority overnight on the grant or denial or refusal of an application for interlocutory injunction. I've gone through the Black's Law Dictionary this dawn. I've read some Nigerians are better text writers in these matters. I've read some authorities on what we call interim injunction. The jurisprudence underpinning interim injunctions as a temporary judicial remedy in civil litigation. There's nowhere. And I think one of the problems we have is also that we don't have a statute and enactment on the jurisprudence of the grant or refusal of injunctions. A couple of countries, I said a couple of countries do. And I think that it's time that as a country, Parliament enacts a law to guide the courts on the grant or refusal of interim applications such as injunctions. Because it's a discretionary power. It's a common law remedy. How are we told that a party that has come to court, that before the final determination of an action that are brought before the court on its merit, I am seeking a temporary judicial remedy because I have a right, and that right, I'm suffering some injury. And so I want the court to grant me a temporary judicial measure to ameliorate that damage. And the court, upon reviewing all the applications, in support and in opposition, then the court says that no, I will not grant this measure, but the grant or the refusal will be given when I am delivering the final judgment. So what really is the essence of the interim application? It's been defeated.
Why do you say
it's been defeated? You see, the name of the application of that motion is called an application on notice. Persons can go ex parte. This is not an ex parte one. Ex parte means we are going alone without notice to the other side. You are applying to the court that in the interim, before the final determination of this action, hear me, on a matter that is in the interim affecting my rights. And the court says, well, I have looked at the application, I have heard you, but I am staying my decision. So the injury, I will continue to suffer the injury. So let me give you the practical examples which attract some of these applications. I am owner of land, all right? Let's say I own Tetekwashi. Right. But I have not decided to do anything on the land as of now. But Martin feels that he has money. So Martin jumps onto my Tetekwashi land and is developing. He has no documents to back his presence on my land. Then I go to sue for a court to declare me the owner of the land. Now, whilst the matter is in court and Martin has properly been sued, been served, Martin is building whatever he's doing on the line, is continuing. Then I go to court and say, okay, before the matter is heard in a year's time, in 2 years' time, 3 years' time, please, can you stop Martin from continuing his building projects? Then the court says, okay, bring all the documents. So I filed all the necessary processes. Martin is served. Martin responds in equal measure. And yet he doesn't stop what he's doing. And the court says, I have looked at the processes, but I will not deliver my ruling. And that my ruling will be delivered as part of the final judgment that will deliver.
Well, the Chief Justice gave reasons why she's gone on this path, justifying that. And you know, so let's just play back what the Chief Justice said. The CJ's position and justification for this decision that the court took. Let's look at what the Chief Justice said quickly.
Enabling this court to deliver a more informed, comprehensive, and just decision that accounts for all relevant circumstances and factors in this important matter. Such a unified approach will further provide context and clarity, and also afford a clearer understanding of the issues raised in this interlocutory matter and their impact on the main suit. Having therefore diligently analyzed all the material processes on the record in this instant application and listened to oral submissions by learned counsel for the parties, our decision is to reserve our verdict on the interlocutory application until the final determination of the substantive suit, at which point we will render a comprehensive judgment that addresses all aspects of the case, including the current application for injunction. In conclusion, the decision of this court on this application for an interlocutory injunction is hereby deferred to abide the outcome of the determination of the substantive suit.
My Lord, we are grateful. Lady, I believe that is fair and equitable, and we cannot but say we are grateful. My Lord, we are also grateful.
Of delivering a comprehensive judgment and took into consideration a number of things, that to the extent that this interlocutory injunction should abide by the determination of this main case, they want to deliver a comprehensive judgment. on these two matters.
Now,
but before you come in, let me welcome Nana Heninto, who's joining us. Nana, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, Alfred. Thank you very much.
It's good to have you. Yes, please.
Now, it's also befuddling that the court will suggest that they can only deliver a comprehensive judgment when they combine the ruling in respect of the interlocutory application with the final judgment in the matter. It's a point that I have never encountered in practice. Yes.
Oh, it's allowed.
Yes, it's allowed. But I mean, how do you do that?
It's not strange. It's not
part of our law.
It is allowed. It is part of our law.
But you see, when you do that, then what then is the essence of the interim application? Because the person who brought the application is actually injuncting Parliament. The essence of the pendency of an active interim application is that the respondent, the defendant respondent, is injuncted from engaging in that conduct until the final determination of the matter. So this is a technical grant of the application. That's what it means. Technically, the application is being granted.
That one, you are right.
Yes, so you are injuncted from engaging in the conduct until the final determination of the matter. So if the matter travels for 2-3 years, Parliament cannot forward the bill as passed to the office of the President.
But the Attorney General says the application for intellectual injunction is still pending.
Yeah, so that
is what I'm saying. That it amounts to a technical grant. Because the jurisprudence governing interim applications such as this is that once you are served, or even if you have notice of it,
yes,
because some persons can do it ex parte, once you have notice of it,
yes,
you are supposed to desist from the conduct that has been taken to court to be pronounced upon until the final determination of the matter. So once the application remains alive on the judicial on the judicial books, on the docket, Parliament is deemed to be injuncted from transmitting, presenting the bill as passed to the office of the President. And it's a very worrisome development.
Why is it worrisome?
How do you tie Parliament's hands this way? That is why the practice is that pronounce on the application. Whether you refuse it or you grant it, make that pronouncement. Because this is a constitutional litigation, constitutional law litigation.
But that's
not a normal civil litigation where there are two private persons involved.
But the option the courts took is not strange to our jurisprudence.
But it's not healthy for Parliament's work at all. And I don't want to say more because I don't want to say more.
Why don't you want to say more or agree with this? You are one of the sponsors of the bill. Obviously, you would have expected that this bill would travel a certain path where after you, Parliament, you are done with your work, you transmit it to the presidency, President
even the speed, even the rate at which it took the application so long to be heard, from March till now. You understand? When I brought my application, it was expressly heard. That's the difference.
The mandamus application?
Not the mandamus. The mandamus was at the High Court, but the Supreme Court one, where I sought to injunct Parliament from proceeding to consider the nominations and vetting reports of the President nominees for as ministers of state. It was expressly heard and dismissed. So Parliament could continue with its work. This one is delayed so long, and yet it will not be determined. The ruling is to abide the outcome of the final matter.
So for you, as the sponsors of this bill, looking at how things are playing out, and what the question on the minds of people who are watching right now is that with everything that's happening now, the determination of this case having been adjourned indefinitely, will this bill ever become law before this 8th Parliament's life ends?
You see, and the danger is that I've also looked at the jurisprudence where a bill has been passed by Parliament, but the the assent to it has delayed, and the life of that parliament comes to an end, what happens to that bill? Because the practice is that where a bill is not passed into law and the life of that parliament comes to an end, the bill is caught by a fluctuation of time. It dies. It has to be revived by the next parliament if they so desire. So it's one of the issues I'm considering. That is this bill has passed, but have not been assented to and gazetted to become a law properly so-called. It will die after midnight, 6 January 2025.
So you're saying that Parliament has done its work? This bill?
The final leg of Parliament's work is the presentation to the office of the President.
Which has not been done.
Which is being frustrated. This is a clever... Look, Supreme Court in every jurisdiction, in addition to being a juristic organ, is also a political organ. Supreme Court, anywhere.
Yeah.
In addition to being a juristic organ, it's also a political organ.
Yeah.
And if you understand these things, you appreciate what is happening.
Yes.
That what? What are you insinuating?
I have not insinuated
it's not an
anything.
insinuation, it's open.
I'm telling you.
It's open.
So
that the Supreme Court makes policy.
Yes.
So
Supreme
some of
Court
the
is
decisions,
a political organ.
It makes policy. And policy, you choose between two things. That's politics, basically. What's politics? You have a choice to make. So you choose between two. But it can be partisan politics, other different ways
in this
of
particular
politics.
instance,
so it's political.
How does this apply?
I have only told you that the Supreme Court, Supreme Court, in any nation, in addition to being a judicial organ, juristic organ that arbitrates on judicial matters, it's also a political organ. So if you understand these two principles, then you appreciate what is happening.
Well, Nana, just a quick one. If you want to make just a quick intervention.
Oh, no, you can go ahead.
Okay.
Yes. But I'm sure you'll give me...
Yes, you will. You will. I'll definitely come to you. Yeah. I'll come to you. But then, so that direct question as to what is going to become of this Ghanaian Family Values Bill, also known as the Anti-Gay Bill. You cannot tell.
And let me read the law.
Let me whether it's going to become law.
But let me conclude my submission by referring the nation to Article 106, Clause 12 of the Constitution, and 13. 106.12, Clause 12 says the provisions of Clauses 7 to 10 of this article shall not apply to a bill certified by the Speaker as a bill to which the provisions of Article 108 of this Constitution apply. And accordingly, the President shall give his assent to any such bill when presented for assent. Private members' bill fall into this category, because the certification of that bill, that 108 does not apply, which is about passing a bill that borders on the financial matters, taxation and all. If the Speaker says that provision does not apply to such a bill, when it is passed by Parliament, the President has no alternative than to assent to it. So the question is, who determines how Speaker does that certification? It's a question we should be answering. So once the Speaker satisfies that a private member's bill passes a certain test, that it will not occasion a financial burden on the public purse, and Parliament passes it, it has to be assented to. The President has no alternative. He has no option. But here we are. Here we are.
Well, let me bring you on this point on this matter. And shortly, Adam Sananu was a co-chair of the Advocacy for Christ, will be joining us for a quick intervention on this matter. But you have always held the view, at least on this platform, that due to the intended or unintended consequences of this anti-gay bill, if it becomes law, you would rather we take all the time, cross the T's and dot the I's before it becomes law, and tick all the boxes. with what is happening now, do you also share in that concern that, look, this bill, after all the work that has been done, may never become law, or you would rather err on the side of caution that let this process play out, no matter how long it will take, so that we have a proper law?
Yeah, so Mr. Ocansey, I think basically both of them. So both of them being, let me repeat, that at this rate, chances that this bill will not become law. And then, more importantly...
The chances are high that this bill will not become law.
Yes, at this rate. Because, you see, number one, next week, practically next Friday, even though theoretically or on the books, the following Wednesday, 31st of July, we are going on vacation. That's official 31st. But for a lot of us lawyers, next Friday, we'll close shop, right? So we proceed on legal vacation and we return that one to, I'm talking practice, mid-October. Even though if you check the exact law, you are looking at the first Monday after the first Friday, but practically mid-October, okay? So it means that for this period, the Supreme Court is not going to deal with this matter. You heard the Attorney General talk about filing his processes.
Yes.
Lawyers are going on vacation. They will deal with only emergency matters. And the vacations are there for good reason. If you practice law with age, then you see that, hey, don't toy with the vacations at all. You know, years ago, a decade ago, when we were much younger, it felt like, 2.5 months was too long.
In fact, you do more business in the vacation.
Exactly. Then, as the years wear on, and you see that, hey, if you are aging...
Suffer wear and tear.
Exactly. Then you see that, okay, so this has some good purpose. So please, let's not toy with the vacation. We are going on vacation. We'll come back mid-October. Of course, during vacation, we do emergency cases, like what Honorable Dafemeko referred to. If somebody is on your land building, no, that one cannot wait till October. Or somebody is being unlawfully arrested, we cannot say we're on vacation. So emergency cases, the courts are open for business, right? But this gay bill doesn't qualify as an emergency, at least from the little that I know. If there are superior arguments, why not? It's a contest of ideas. Let's advance them and see what the Supreme Court can do. But for now, from what the Supreme Court has decided, it means that effectively they will resume hearings after mid-October. Now, after mid-October, you know, when they come back, they have to do memorandum of issues, etc. Long story short, there are still quite a number of steps to be taken before the court will come to a decision. So practically, it's looking more like this bill is not likely because there's still a lot of work to be done. And I support the view which I've consistently advocated. Let's go through. You know, that's a national conversation we are having. Of course, I remember how the pastors have waded in, they've called on the president, etc. That's good. Let's protect our values, right? Yes, but let's also allow the other side to also advance their arguments. So let it play out. Let it play out, and then we would see. Because, of course, you remember the faux pas, the letter written by the Minister of Finance crying. They said that the donor funds will not come.
We're going to lose some.
Yes. Of course, that letter was poorly written. It's in bad taste. That's not what had to be written. It's bad. It's not supported by evidence, at least from Uganda. Uganda still have their IMF program, and all that, right? Yeah, but you can see that there is every attempt to, by government. Obviously, the president is not in favor, right? So you can see.
How do you know that? He hasn't said that, has he?
A president will refer to a court action when there's no court action.
Exactly. You see? So he's just lucky the laws are working in his favor that, listen, when a matter is in court, stop. Except that there are some exceptions. So in this case, his is falling into the general rule that because the matter is in court, he should stay his hands. And let's do it. Let's grow the democracy. You see that every passing day, you see that citizens are becoming more enlightened, more conscious of their rights, and they are participating in the conversation. So it will take a while. We are evolving as a nation. Even America, India, and the rest, they are all evolving. We are all in a constant flux, improving day in, day out. So I know people are very angry, citing the e-levy example, that e-levy, there was a court matter, and the they went ahead and did the implementation. Yes, all that. But there's a constitutional principle which the Supreme Court has honored time and again. Now listen, when you breach the Constitution or when you engage in a constitutional illegality, even for 500 years, then it doesn't become law. So yes, I appreciate what happened with the e-levy and all that. But at that time, we weren't as this conscious, right? Now you see we are all eagle-eyed, very... well, at least we've improved, and we are watching this bill keenly and all the movement. So you see that now we are asserting our rights more than we did when it came to the e-levy one. Okay, so I think that they are different. The contexts are different. The e-levy context, you know, at that time, don't forget that Oforiatta had said it to create 10 million jobs or something. So you see that there were parts of us, some of us who thought that, okay, but listen, if it's going to create more jobs, why not? Because we all know unemployment is a ticking time bomb that is going to cause the Arab Spring in Ghana. And you see, all right, because right now we are at 14.7% of our populace are unemployed. So at the time the e-levy bill came, it was more about just reduce the rate and then let's get on with it. I mean, eventually, remember even minority, eventually Haruna, you know, at a point came out as minority leader, made a statement, it was about the rate, etc. But at the end of the day, we were all very clear that we needed to collect more taxes, but it was just the rate. So you see that if you just compare the e-levy lawsuit to this anti-gay bill like that, without going into the context, we'll be misleading ourselves. Let's just play back. Didn't Haruna come out to say, yes, they support, but it's the rate? And eventually, that's what it turned out to be, that it was just the rate, because we all appreciated that we needed to do something more to bridge the yawning gap in the tax to GDP ratio, right? Yes, we all accept. But for the way the president and his people, like in Japan say, they've looted us like there's no tomorrow, paying taxes wouldn't have been so much of a problem. But the real problem is because they are looting us like there's no tomorrow. So you're like, why would I pay more for these guys, this MPP government, to loot us like there's no tomorrow? You see, so look at the context. The context is very, very important. So the e-levy one and this anti-gay bill one, they are different. And as I said, by all means, let the churches continue to make their point. That is very important. And then let the court also take time to deliberate so that when they come out with a decision, it is one that will move us together as a nation. You see? The second point about the injunction. Yeah?
Yes. So I mean, well, the reality check is that, at least based on the calendar you have just given us, we'll just have to face the reality that this anti-LGBTQ plus bill may never become law. That's the underlying factor here. Yeah. It may never
it will take a miracle because of the timeline from mid-October coming back and, you know, so 31st December, I mean, by 6th of January 2025. If you look at the time the court will need to come to a decision, etc. No, because there have been other issues. You know, the court, you see, we've mentioned other things. Also, let me just pass in a quick one. Our court is not well resourced. You see, in terms of the clerks that they need, the support base. You remember Honorable Ohininto mentioned it last week. And then they said your colleague Yabuabia Samoa. Yes, you see, you compare to the Supreme Court in the US, right? They have minimum four clerks, and not just, of course, some can be younger, but usually you have very experienced lawyers, okay, constitutional gurus supporting one judge. So the judge doesn't do all the work alone. Here, we've been playing with him.
We don't do the clerkship system. That's the clerkship system.
We've been doing it since the 1980s, except that we do it a few years, then we dissolve it. Then go and come after 10 years, then we go and renew it. Yeah, there are lawyers who in the 1980s, I remember a lawyer, Samoa telling me that he was a clerk to one of them. So he's been there in the 80s. But we didn't grow it. We disbanded it. Sometimes you even hear that they say, oh, the clerkship will breed corruption because the clerk will know where the judge is going and he will go and take money from parties, all that. You know, so long and short, we haven't grown it. And you see, it's coming back to bite us. Then a few years ago, we started it. But of course, because the remuneration is small, you get very young lawyers. You can't get senior lawyers coming to clerk the Supreme Court judge because government will not pay them well. Yes. So if a lawyer can earn a little more in the court, he's not likely to go and serve as a clerk. So you get very junior lawyers doing that. And then as soon as they also come into their own, then they want to leave and go and practice. So that is really where we should be looking at. Because look at the U.S. Supreme Court with the huge volumes of cases. These clerks go through and then they will certify this case, no, this one doesn't pass. Then they throw it out. They call it non-set. So when they stamp it non-set after reviewing it, then it means the court will not hear it. So they sieve the cases, etc. So the point I'm making is that our court is not being equipped to be fast because they need a lot of research help that's not available. I've seen cases that, listen, when we're fighting for disclosures, criminal disclosures in the Supreme Court, it took 2 years. 2 years. Yeah. Republic versus Bafuboni, before that decision came, it's one decision that, with hindsight, every time I look at it, then I see that the Supreme Court will need a lot of help. Because, look, I started this 2016, May. It took them, even the Attorney General, it took over 8 months before they could respond. They were opposing the grant of criminal disclosures at a point. Then later they said yes. Then the court said, no, go and do research and come. Meanwhile, to those of us, as plaintiffs, we had researched and thought this thing is easy. But it's that they had to take time, a lot of time, also researching before coming. So then eventually they said, okay, let's give the decision in Bafuboni, because by then Bafuboni had been referred from the High Court. There had been a referral, the trial court, the NCA trial. Yes. Because they were waiting for the criminal disclosures. The Supreme Court wasn't coming to a decision. So Justice Che Bafo made a referral to the Supreme Court. So it came and met mine. And then the Supreme Court said, people stand aside, let's give the decision in Bafuboni. Of course, by then we had all understood that they would grant. But 2 years for a matter that I thought was very simple. But because they needed to also research, even Attorney General to be able to do their response, it took over 8 months. So research, so last week and the week before, as Yabuabia somewhere, and then later Honorable Hininto were talking about research, resourcing the judges. There wasn't enough time for me to make an input. But I have felt it. Criminal disclosures that I thought, this thing within 2 months it should be granted. We got it after 2 years. So these matters didn't start today. So if today you see anti-LGBTQ going to take 2 years, please, that's not the first time. Because for me, if you ask lawyers, I thought generally criminal disclosures were easy. I thought at the time I was filing in 2016, I thought that because so many African countries were well ahead of Ghana, as soon as the Supreme Court saw my brief, within 2-3 months, they would call and quickly grant it. But it never happened. Over 2 years, they said, no, we'll also take our time and research it. Take our time and research. It didn't matter that Namibia had criminal disclosures 1993, South Africa 1995,
we have to look at what
Kenya,
within our jurisprudence.
Exactly. So it was slow, painfully slow. So the anti-gay bill is not the first that will go through this slow process. Let's wait. Ghana is not coming to an end. We'll be here for 1,000 and then add infinity.
You see, in effect, you talk about the slow process. As to whether the slow process would have a definitive end would have been a different thing. But now, even though the process is slow, the end objective of this becoming law, as you have stated, it will take a miracle for this anti-LGBTQ plus bill to become law in this country, at least within this period or before the life of this 8th Parliament ends. And if this 8th Parliament ends, from what things are looking like, the whole process will have to start again if the 9th Parliament is minded to even take up this bill. One of the groups, and I'll come to you on the decision that the Supreme Court has taken to go on that path of rather waiting to give a comprehensive judgment, which Lawyer Dafeanko disagrees with that path. But Adam Senano is the chairman of the Advocates for Christ. They are one of the groups that have supported these 7 members of Parliament who are the proponents of this anti-LGBTQ plus bill. He's joining us on the telephone. Senano, good morning. Thank you for joining us here on Key Point. With what's happening now and what Lawyer Martin Pebu has just given us this reality check, I'm sure for you, the Advocates of Christ, doesn't come as good news, does it?
Well, good morning. Thank you, Alfred. Yes, I mean, we seem to have, it appears, an uphill task, but we believe in miracles. So I hear my friend Martin and his comments about how long these things can take. I am sure tomorrow, as we wrap up, we are at the moment in a marathon prayer session, we will be making some appeals. It's good the leadership has pointed out that they will be expecting early hearing. we will be leveraging that and asking that the 3-year investment of this country in preparing this draft bill ought not to be thrown to waste.
You'll be making some appeals to the Chief Justice.
Well, yes, to all the stakeholders who matter where we have reached at this point. She has mentioned that it's going to be the early hearing. I think that there are jurisdictions where you have the Supreme Court working even through the vacation. Ghana is not one of those. However, we are playing that kind of context to say, look, we cannot make this investment in ensuring that the interest of Ghanaians is lost at this point. So, yes, just making that reference that, look, there are things that can happen. It may look uphill, but it is not lost.
I see. It's interesting that you still have, and it's good that you still hold hopes high for as long as this process goes on. But looking at the timelines as well at play, for you as a group working with Parliament, are there other alternatives that you intend to employ to at least ensure that this miracle that you're hoping would happen would indeed take place?
Because of the court hearings that must occur. But even with that, I mean, who knew that on 28 February there would have been an unanimous passing by Parliament? It wasn't anticipated. So, as I said, miracles do happen. We are expecting that this bill will be passed, and we'll continue to do everything we need to do to ensure that the stakeholders are aware that this is the expectation of the majority of Ghanaians.
And I'm sure majority of Ghanaians would side with you, at least based on the sentiments so far. But then again, if it doesn't happen for you, Advocates for Christ, what will be the next option?
I'm not even going to accept that it's not going to happen. Certainly not at this stage. Because we are going to make sure we are marshalling everything we ought to get this done. It is an important legacy for this country, and I think all of us must keep, our best foot forward as we try and ensure that at this point, Parliament has done its part. Unfortunately, the executive did not receive it. It's gone to the judicial branch of government. We need to keep our eyes there and encourage them that this is not one of those business as usual situations. This is definitely one of those points where Ghanaians are looking up to them for leadership, and that leadership includes expediting the hearing such that we can arrive at the conclusion of the matter, send it back to the presidency, and move on. So that's where we stand today, and I'm sure that all Ghanaians will be expecting that our judiciary understands the import of where this issue has reached and why we are looking up to them to do what is in the best interest of this country.
I see. Now, to the extent that this matter has taken, obviously, the legal path, the economic path also, the economic consideration became topical during the conversation, the social aspect of it as well, and now the political aspect where you have at least the leading flag bearers of MPP and NDC, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia and John Mahama, all making comments about this bill and the fact that they are not going to allow activities of LGBTQ plus persons to thrive in this country. Would you have expected something more, at least in assisting or pledging assistance to this bill to become law from the political angle? Because this bill has taken a number of angles as we see it.
Yes, Alfred, I mean, that's a very important point you make. I mean, from a public policy advocacy perspective, all these presidential candidates at this point should demonstrate their commitment to what they have said. Indeed, one of the things I have said when on platforms is that Ghanaians need to make sure that those who they are voting for are people who make promises and fulfill them. So this is an opportunity to get these political persons to ensure that they also speak up. and, as it were, bring some influence to bear on the process to ensure that we get a result that moves this nation forward. As far as we are concerned, we cannot have a situation where these Western practices, which are not right, become consolidated as part of our social fabric in this nation.
No pressure your time. Thank you so much for joining us.
And thank you for having me.
Adam Senano is the chairman of the Advocacy for Christ, one of the many groups that also supported the 7 members of parliament, including an MPP MP for that matter, you see, a Deputy Education Minister, Reverend Tim Fodio. He is part of you.
Yes.
Those who sponsored this bill.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we are 8 in all.
8 of you. Now, Lawyer Matipebo, quickly, and this one, that point of departure that Lawyer, that's the Honorable Nelson Roxon Dafiampo had with the courts rather deferring judgment on this interlocutory injunction and rather opting to have a comprehensive judgment. He says, well, it's injurious to the work of Parliament, but it's not strange in our jurisprudence, is it?
Yes.
It happens.
Yes, it happens. That's our law. So lawyers are well acquainted or know Order 25. So it's expressly provided for...
CI 47.
Yes, under Order 25 of CI 47. When we say CI 47, is one of the rule books that we use in the High Court. So where it expressly provides that when a matter comes before the court for an interlocutory injunction, the judge, instead of deciding on the injunction to say, yes, I grant that so and so should not continue doing this thing or should continue in that intended action, the court can refuse to do that, defer that, and rather go into the merits. Go into the merits and then deal with the matter once and for all. So it's a discretion. So the court looks at all the circumstances and comes to that decision.
Okay.
So it means that, as Honorable Dafiameko stated initially, it means that as long as the court has not yet dealt with the injunction, it is pending, and so it's as effective as an express grant. That's to say, the plaintiffs put an application for injunction on the back of the writ of summons. That's say there was a writ in the Supreme Court, and then they applied for injunction. And so the Supreme Court said, no, we're not going to the injunction yet. We just want to deal with everything as a composite matter, the injunction and the substantive matter. So it means that practically there is still an injunction against the speaker and also the president from signing, because the matter is in court. And the court has made it very clear. They repeated it a few months ago. I read from this case of Republic versus Bank of Ghana, ex-party Dufour, where even the governor, Addison and Co., they were committed for contempt of court, except that they were not thrown into jail. The punishment was a caution, okay? Yeah, because they engaged in conduct that undermine the authority of the court. So governor and then Caroline Otu and other officers were committed for contempt, right? So in that judgment, the Supreme Court repeated it that final judicial authority is vested in the court. That's Article 125, Clause 3. Final judicial authority is vested in the court. So when a matter is pending, don't do anything to render the case a foolish case. Lawyers will say nugatory, but we use the ordinary word. You know, Ghana, we like this word, foolish case. Yeah, we understand it. Yes, yes. No, I always say we should be proud of the Ghanaian English. If I had money, I would sponsor a dictionary on Ghanaian English. You ask the English, the more you read English, they will tell you that there are 70 dialects of the English language. 70. So you hear Chinglish, Chinese, different variants. All right. So we also have Ghanaian English. It's not a shame. Language is dynamic.
Nigerian English is recognized.
Exactly. You can never speak English like the Queen. No, you won't. Well, you can try, but it won't be the same. So I will embrace, as soon as I say foolish case, we understand it more than you say nugatory. Well, now you go and look for your phone and Google nugatory and all that. So in order not to make the case a foolish case, when it is pending, don't do any such thing. So it means that let's hold our hands. That's our law. That's the law we've chosen. And the Supreme Court is copying from CI 47. And it's allowed that anytime the Supreme Court rules CI 16 don't expressly provide for something, the court is allowed to look at all the other rules, the High Court rules, Court of Appeal rules, and also even outside Ghana, and use it. So saying that the Supreme Court will not make a decision on the application for injunction, but rather defer it to the final decision, it's our law. Let's, allow the court to work. But of course, don't forget, it takes vigilant and active citizens to make the court work properly.
Indeed.
So if you think there are things that are untoward, yes, voice them. Because you see, we are becoming stronger and stronger. You remember how when the CJ proposed 5 nominees to the president straight away, we were very clear here that that is unconstitutional conduct. And eventually even the GBA, which traditionally usually supports judges, they had to come out to side with us that no, this is wrong. They are asking that there should be broader consultations. So you see that in the last 1 month, a lot has happened. We are growing our democracy. We need to speak up. These things where we are very differential to authority, differential to authority, it's hurt us. It's hurt us. I always say, when Akufo-Addo started, those days, we gave him too much of a honeymoon. If we had started voicing our concerns, I don't think we would have been here. But some of us were very happy that we had kicked out Mahama, corrupt Mahama, etc. So when Akufo-Addo started and he was getting it wrong, we're like, oh, no, he's just started. Give him some time. Give him some time. You think in January we are going to do the same? No. Now we are wiser and more mature. So from day one, there will be no honeymoon. Your first day in office, anything goes wrong, we'll come baying for your blood. Quick. And don't be surprised. In the not too distant future, you will see a president resign. Because now we've made it very clear that in Article 60 clause, is it 13? Let me see. When the president and the vice resign, we can have early elections quickly.
The speaker takes over.
Exactly.
And within 3 months,
we have elections. So now we've educated ourselves that our constitution provides for early elections. So you think every time we keep mentioning it, you think it will be useless?
In fact, you know what I want to do?
Let's read it briefly.
Yes, because this is going to feed into, in fact, it's a major aspect of our next conversation.
Excellent.
So, but you bring it
just briefly, it says, where the Speaker of Parliament assumes the office of President as a result of the death, resignation, or removal from office of the President and the Vice President, there shall be a presidential election within 3 months after his assumption of office. So today, if President Akufo-Addo and Bawumia resign, 3 months from today is what, 20th July, right? So August, September, October. So it means that by 20th October, we'll have a new president. That's how come last year when Akufo-Addo said he couldn't go on anymore, we were supposed to rouse.
No, did he say he couldn't go?
He says wait for the next leader.
Yes, but that doesn't mean
wait for the next leader. He gave up. And then we sat down, they laid back.
That's how you understood it. That is, he couldn't go on anymore.
He said, wait for the next leader. We said times are hard.
Specific issues, yes.
Times are hard. The economy, he said, oh, wait for the next leader. So it means that he had given up. And then we sat down. The normal docile Ghanaian, laid back Ghanaian.
We said no more honeymoon.
Let's see. Charlie, all right.
No more honeymoon.
No. This one, hey, from 7th January, as soon as the new president is sworn in, I tell you, I think we are maturing little by little. Yeah. And those days, now we've seen. We thought Mahama was a vampire. But we didn't know that somebody could be worse than him, a super vampire.
So you are not going to... No, but I mean, well...
No, but it's a figure. Do you want me to count 4 indicators? Democracy, anti-corruption, press freedom...
We will get to those indicators. I'm only saying to you that characterization takes a lot away from what you want to say. Respectfully.
Okay.
Please. Now, that's why I want us to stay on a certain path so that we don't... your issues are not diluted.
Thank you.
I know the point you're trying to make.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So I don't want us to get into the vampire and super vampire. Kindly just withdraw that so that we can...
Oh, vampire too?
Yes, no, let's kindly.
Oh, no.
It will take a lot away from... I know what you want to say. You know, I know what the point you want to make, right? But it will take a lot away, respectfully. It will take a lot. Yes,
vampire.
Indeed. It will take...
it will weaken us.
You know what I don't want to do? I don't want us to dilute the communication.
I don't think
yes, I don't want us to dilute the communication. You know what I'm talking about. Right.
Vampire, we say politicians are vampire. They suck up because they just they don't give us much. Ooh.
Respectfully.
Jesus Christ.
Okay. Lawyer, so that we don't end up. And I know the points that you make about
this is well written.
There's
literature. When you characterize politicians as vampire, you've said nothing.
You say.
Oh no, Ghana, our democracy will be weaker.
Okay.
Our democracy will be weaker if we don't.
At least you clarify the point that you're trying to make.
So yes.
What is the clarification?
So the clarification, I said that looking at the indices, anti-corruption, we've seen that JM is better than Akufo-Addo.
Okay.
Press freedom index, he's better all the both of the years, right? You come to democracy index, JM's administration did better. Then you come to the economy, better. So if we thought that JM was a vampire, it turned out that there is a super vampire.
So that's the context in which you are making it?
Yes.
That's well understood. Nobody takes you out of context.
Yes.
That's all I just wanted you to do.
Yes.
So that you don't say things that are misconstrued to be something else. Are we on the same page?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much.
Nana, I'm sorry I had to keep you for too long on this. Auntie. Has
you
Alan
are in the driver's seat.
No, I'm not the mate. Alan Chevanting, has he stated his position on this?
Of course,
anti-LGBTQ plus bill?
Completely against LGBTQ plus. And he made the statement from two major perspectives. First, our norms, customs, and tradition as Ghanaians, and secondly, as a Christian. He did make the point very clearly. So his position is that we cannot entertain anti-LGBTQ as a right. I mean, people have been doing these things and nobody has stopped them. If people want to do these things in private, well, that one you can't go into their bedroom and do anything. But now that those who are engaged in it wants it to be established more as a right, that is where the issue lies. But having said that, I think the issues that the lawyers have laid out this morning are very, very, very interesting. I mean, clearly, you would see that the Supreme Court, in all fairness, hasn't gone against any law from the expressions that our two lawyers here have indicated. They haven't gone against any law by the position they've taken. But my first real comment will be based on the point that Honorable Dafiame-Pope made about the political nature of some of these issues and the fact that the Supreme Court indeed is a political creation. So the Supreme Court is not just, as he put it, a juristic organization. It is not just for constitutional and legal matters. It is part of our political setup. And seriously speaking, if you look at the structure of the state, you have the executive, you have the legislature, you have the judiciary in that political order. So really, the Supreme Court is part of the political system and also has political content beyond the law and constitutionalism. But, I mean, to take it from the layman's point of view, I'm asking myself, if Parliament has passed a bill and it is up to the President to sign or not to sign, why doesn't he exercise his authority and right also as President? Why go through or encourage or support using the courts? There is nothing wrong about it. It is legal. Those who decided to put an injunction on the service of the bill on the President could be in their right as citizens. But I'm also asking myself, if those who took that step allow Parliament to present the bill to the President, hasn't the President got the right or the authority to say, I would sign or I won't sign? I don't know what the implication of what Honorable Dafiame-Pope said about once Parliament certifies a certain kind of bill,
Speaker, actually.
The Speaker certifies, then the President has no option but to sign. I don't know whether that really is the law.
It's the law.
If that is the law, it means that then probably that is the reason why the president, if he's not interested in signing the law, or those who took the application for the injunction, yes, then they will go to court, because they know as soon as it is presented to the president, then legally he has no other option but to sign. But you see, the president also has to understand that we also, some of us say it all the time, you are not just dealing with the law. You are not dealing with only your personal positions. You are not dealing with only your preferences. You are dealing with the generality of the people you are ruling. What is the broad sentiment? If we talk about majoritarian democracy, I am sure that if anybody did a scientific survey as to what percentage of Ghanaians will be interested in supporting this anti-LGBTQ law, as against those who would want it to be left or even reified this behavior as a right, I am almost certain, even though I haven't done any scientific survey, or I don't think we have done it yet, I'm almost certain that a very huge majority of Ghanaians will say we are not happy legalizing or reifying, uplifting this behavior as a right, as a human right, as has been done in other societies. So I think the president should be sensitive to the sentiment of majority of the people of Ghana. But it is still his right either to sign or not to sign. I think it is still his right. Now, if the fear is that once this parliament lapses, then it could never become law, I don't think that really is the case. There's going to be another parliament after the election, and I'm sure that whoever may have tabled this motion that went through parliament has become a bill could go back through the process again.
We did.
Yeah, it's only that, well, it takes us some time, but Lawyer Kwebu has reminded all of us, sometimes the processes of the law and the judicial system is, he put it this way, painfully slow.
Yeah, because the disclosure one, they didn't pay me 2 years. Because some things are very simple. Go and come. 4 months, go and come.
Yeah, it's become painfully slow. But of course, as we all know, democracy and the processes of democracy, and particularly with reference to the law and judicial processes, it can be really, really slow.
You've forgotten Dom Leveau. Dom Leveau said when Dom Leveau was kicked out of office, people are sorry, making noise, then lots of us lawyers were quiet. People didn't want to talk because we were scared, hey, the judges will not be happy, you see. But now we are growing. Sorry.
Yeah. So it is turning out to be one of those painfully slow processes for majority of Ghanaians. Because as far as people of faith, like myself, are concerned, in the Christian faith, in the Islamic faith, even in traditional beliefs of our society, every sector of our society basically frowns on men marrying men, women marrying women.
In fact, it's an abomination before our traditional courts.
Before God, in Christianity and in so many other faiths. So, you see, I don't think that our courts, our Supreme Court and the judicial system is operating in a vacuum. They are operating within the milieu of our culture. And sometimes, I think that these processes should also pay some attention to the reality of our culture and our norms and our traditions and so on. But as I said, once the Supreme Court has quoted the law, and as far as the law is concerned, they haven't done anything wrong, it becomes really problematic. So I can only appeal to the values and the norms that we have overwhelmingly against LGBTQ. I don't know how anybody can convince me. It doesn't matter what the Americans think. It doesn't matter what Canadians think. It It doesn't matter what European society thinks. So don't we, as a society, have a right to also promote our own sacred values? Why should our values be
subsumed,
tied to some other society's values? And in fact, for us to be blackmailed, more or less, where the vice president of the US visits Ghana with her husband, and then she comes basically threatening the ambassador to the US, the ambassador of the US to Ghana, basically threatening.
Husband who is a male.
well, I mean, let's...
Basically,
let's
wait. Let me make my point. No, basically threatening that, look, if Ghanaians go on this path and they go and sign this bill and make it impossible for LGBTQ plus persons to also live their lives publicly and so on and so forth, it is going to cost you economically and financially. I thought that was not in such great taste. You know, I mean, you could see the nervousness of government to this matter. And Matthew Kwebu, Lawyer Kwebu, referred to the rather infantile letter that the Minister of Finance issued on this matter, that if we don't take care, we're going to go hungry. Where everybody is going to sleep without eating because we have not allowed anti-LGBTQ to be lifted to a certain level. I thought that was not good enough. And in fact, for me, it was even a matter of shame. It was a matter of shame because really, even though from time to time we run ourselves into economic and financial difficulties and we will need support from the IMF and the World Bank and other sources, if we are going to make our existence, we're going to plan our existence, our lives, based on handouts and loans from external sources, obviously, we should tell ourselves that our development plans cannot be sustained. And this LGBTQ situation, for me, is a major test of our readiness to take our destiny as a society into our own hands. 67 years after independence, when Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah declared that the black man is capable of managing his own affairs, and Ghana, our beloved country, is free forever, it is obvious that a threat on we going for our values and supporting what we believe to be the sanctity of the relationship between a man and a woman, which is for procreation, which is for the creation of a family, which is for the building of society. We go for that. And someone can threaten us because we don't have a sustainable way of living our lives. Then we are in serious trouble. Then we have to think and think again about the kind of life we have been leading, about the kind of governance we have been running, about the kind of economic policies we have been pursuing, about the kind of nation we want to build. Because this matter, as far as I'm concerned, is not just a simple matter. It is a very big issue which is giving us the opportunity to confront some of the real difficulties, fundamental, structural difficulties of our society going forward. Because when I look at what is going on in other societies, the people who are LGBTQ, they want to adopt children so that you have two fathers or two mothers. This, you know, but that's their problem. That's their problem. But I am talking about majority of us as Ghanaians, as Africans, having made our voices so loudly heard by the West, by Europe, by Canada, and the United States. I don't know why anybody in those circles should threaten us to the point that we ourselves have become intimidated, more or less, especially at the governmental level. In fact, my information is that at some point, even before this bill is pushed through, in an effort to try and please foreign donors, the Ministry of Education attempted to introduce LGBTQ
to a curriculum,
to educational curriculum, to little children. I mean, that for me is a very, very dangerous matter. So the parents don't have a right to bring up their children. Children get to the age of accountability and then decide. Let's even say they even want to become LGBTQ. Why don't you leave them alone for them to grow up to the age of accountability, to know the difference between the various options in society, in life, what is good and evil or bad, so that they can make their choices. Now the government, the state, wants to entrench and enforce and push down values that majority of us in Ghana consider to be negative, because we are not able to feed ourselves. So whoever is giving us the handout is saying, put this in your curriculum. And the really disturbing part for me was where they wanted to introduce it at the very early stages of childhood development. That for me was a big issue. So we are where we are today. The Supreme Court may have taken a technical legal position. The president may have gone and taken cover under the technicality of the law. But it also speaks about the president himself and his own personal position. Because you see, before this matter got to this, he had been asked this matter, this issue. And the response he gave was that, oh, it's only a matter of time, and as other societies have legalized it, it's only a matter of time. As for me, that was the point at which the president had given a clear indication that he was not interested in anything that will restrict or seek to ban, at least at the public level, legal level, the activities of LGBTQ. So the president has shown that he personally will be against the anti-LGBTQ law by not so many words. He has already given that indication. So if people either accuse him or cite him for either actively or indirectly supporting this move to halt or to slow down the process, I would go for that. Because the president hasn't done anything to show us that he also is on the side of majority of the people who quote our customs, our norms, our tradition, our faith. And from all intents and to all intents and purposes, the president himself is a Christian. There is no Christian who is a true Christian who would ever support anti-LGBTQ.
I mean, you mean LGBTQ?
No Christian who believes in the Bible as the scripture, as the word of, no Christian. If there are pastors, if there are churches that are saying, it is their right, oh, this and that, it is anti-Christian. The thing is that if you are a true Christian, all of us are sinners, and sin takes several different forms. What God expects is that we will recognize our sin, accept that we are sinners, go to Jesus Christ, ask for forgiveness, and turn a new leaf. Turning a new leaf in Christianity does not include the right, so-called, of being LGBTQ. It is alien. It is called an abomination to Christianity. Other religions I know also talk about the same thing. So if anybody is truly Christian and they tend to be liberal about this matter, I think it is problematic.
Well, there are a number of messages. Let me just clear this up. This one here from Dr. Kwame Asante says, global best practices need not be Caucasian origined. The vehemence of the West in getting us to allow this is the very reason why we must not succumb. It means that for once, we are on to something good. Can't we subject this to a national referendum? What will it take? Can you kindly find out from Lawyer Martin Pebu on this matter? He's asking if this cannot be subjected to a national referendum, and what will it take? And that's a question that he wants a response to.
Yeah, so that's whether we should allow the LGBTQ rights
to be put to a referendum.
Yes, we can. But the thing you face with this is government will quickly be slow because they are wondering that.
They're not interested.
Yes, because it won't directly bring votes. Remember the election of the MMDCs, something that we needed to be able to make MMDCs accountable at the district and municipal levels. Yeah, the president torpedoed it, and the rest of our citizens sat down. So, Dr. Asante, if you champion...
No, that's Dr. Kwame.
Kwame Asante. Okay.
Asante is different.
Dr. Kwame Asante, if you champion it and also help raise funds, yes, but otherwise they tell you that as a developing country it's not a priority. Because look at the constitutional review process. You see the president just shoved everything. 8 years. We've lost.
Now, there are, in fact, quite a number of messages on this. So, Professor Kwekwaza, good morning. Thank you very much for your message on this matter. It's quite a long one, but I will read it because it also brings up other issues. Professor Kwekwaza says 3 issues. Good morning, Alfred. It is not unusual for the Supreme Court to defer an injunction ruling. Of course, the practical implication is that the application is defeated. So he agrees with that point. The problem is this myth that an application for injunction serves as an injunction. It doesn't, especially when one seeks to injunct a public body from doing its work. The notion that one person can injunct Parliament, the President, WAEC, etc., by merely filing an application in court is just preposterous.
It's serious.
The issue here is not that the application has served as an injunction. Parliament can continue its work. The real problem here is that the President refuses to accept the bill, and the Parliament should have issued a mandamus compelling him to receive it. That's point 1. 2, Article 108 deals with money bills, which are bills that deal specifically with financial issues such as imposing a tax or a charge on the consolidated fund, public loans, etc. Every bill has financial implications, but merely because a bill has financial implications does not make it a money bill under Article 108. Otherwise, there will be no reason to empower the Speaker to determine whether a bill is a money bill, since all bills have financial implications. Nor, frankly, will the idea of vesting legislative power in Parliament make any sense, since only the President can introduce bills. The third and final point that he makes is that the court is being a busybody here. Its job is to interpret the Constitution in the context of actual disputes. Here, there is no law. Even when the bill becomes law, it must be applied to a person before a live dispute arises. One can't simply take a law to the court and ask that the court declare it unconstitutional. The proper way to address any issues with the bill before it becomes law lies in the realm of politics, not the courts. The court risks too much of its capital by inserting itself into such political processes. That's Professor Kwekwaza, quite a long one, 3 very important issues that he raises, and it also puts some matters that we had earlier raised into proper context as well. Yes, let's do this quickly in a few minutes. I need to round up and go to the next issue.
Now, the other point I want to raise is that there are several matters concerning Parliament, cases brought against Parliament or by Parliament itself or members of Parliament that are pending before the court. Regarding the work of Parliament, the court appears to be laissez-faire about them. And yet Parliament is called upon, even at midnight, to adopt reports concerning nominees to serve on the Supreme Court. And we do so with alacrity. When businesses of judiciary comes before the floor, we do so with alacrity. That is a pain for me as a member of Parliament. That when a case concerns the work, the core mandate of Parliament can be treated as though it's a normal civil litigation. To take a normal, slow, painful process course of adjudication. When Parliament begins to treat matters from the judiciary or the executive with the same laissez-faire approach,
Okay.
What will happen? So I agree with Nana Ohini too that yes, there must be priority. Matters must be prioritized. In fact, in even in the realm, in the heavenly realm, there are hierarchies. So matters are more important than others or willing. George Orwell says we all animals, but some animals are more important than the others.
They are more equal.
More equal than the others. So I want to suggest that when cases come before the court, that borders on the core mandate of the organs of state. Imagine that persons are nominated to serve on the Supreme Court, and somebody goes before the Supreme Court to challenge. Would the court treat that matter in the same way that they are handling this one?
Okay.
They would have dealt with that matter with alacrity to pave the way for the process to continue.
Well,
so I just want to urge the court. Then finally, I heard the AG in his grant of interview that he empowered Parliament for the introduction of private members' bill. How did he do that? As the Deputy Attorney General, what did he do?
Well, he stated it.
Yes, and I'm saying, what did he do? He didn't do anything.
Okay.
He should stop speaking in those manners. Well, the power for private members to introduce bill is in Article 106(12). Once he doesn't bother on financial bills, we had the power to introduce him. AD, as a Deputy Attorney General, he didn't do anything.
Okay. Well,
Mr. Ocansey, let me ask you a question. So the leak tape, is Godfrey Dami saying he's not going?
Yeah, he won't go.
We'll see. That matter is also playing out.
What is more worrisome is the court hearing him now.
Okay.
The court, the judge
I want to clear
giving him audience.
Look.
Anyway.
This Mensa Majid in Bechem's a place called Bechem, Toronto.
Yeah.
Bechem, Toronto.
Yes.
Hey, anyway, says the MPP government is not against.
It's a suburb.
It says, yes, against the LGBT+ bill for reasons. It says President Kufuor should step up and also speak out on this matter. I think that's what you said. This one here from
TV3.
Justice from Tamale. Good morning. So, Counsel, please, is it the case that the Supreme Court already has a verdict? It says, but holding on and waiting what comes out of the lower courts, then why then allow the processes in the Supreme Court continue if they wanted to take a cue? So it says from the lower courts. That's a question that was. This one says, good morning. Okay. Right. So another one from Musa Abatwa in Aswanse says, Alfred, I strongly disagree with the Supreme Court's ruling in this matter. This decision does not reflect the values and sentiments of the majority of Ghanaians. And it says, I agree with, it says, Eche on this. Okay, I'm sure that's what you want to say. This one here from, it says, from Nana Kwame, sends us a message from Ho, says, Lawyer Martin Pebbles' position on this matter is very well known. Having a two and balanced approach to it may be the way to go. In as much as we want this law, we must also make sure that we proceed on a path where if this becomes law, we will not have other matters to deal with. You say, thank you very much for your message. This one from Henry from Koforidia says, what is happening now clearly shows that there are some kingpins that are controlling things that we cannot see. Hadi from Pig Farm, thank you very much for your message. We'll run through them as well. And also to you, Professor Kukwaza, again. Now, this leads us into something that, maybe you touched on briefly earlier, cost of living. You know, because after all of this is said and done, it still comes back to the bread and butter issues.
Yes.
And this week, we saw a number of things. In the global economy, there are three things that controls the fundamentals of the global economy. We call it the 3 Fs.
Okay.
The fuel, finance, and food.
Thank you.
If you are able to, as a government, put these factors or these basic issues of fuel,
thank you,
food, and finance,
thank you,
in place and properly controlled, your economy obviously will respond positively. If you have fuel, finance, and food out of gear, your people will suffer. It goes without saying.
Thank you.
And that's what the global economy is defined with. Now, and I always say that in doing this economic analysis, it is not so much about what you say or how the economy is looking per your perspective or how the statistics look like. It's a lot more about how people feel.
Exactly.
So we're going to have this conversation bearing in mind that, yes, we are seeing the trends statistically pointing in a positive direction, but also taking major consideration of how people are feeling. Because that is what the economy is all about, really. Not so much about what you say, it's a lot more about how people feel. Cost of living, food items on the market, considerably high. And we asked the major players in the agricultural sector why this is the case. Because they make us understand that we are in the harvesting season. Yeah. And what is synonymous with the harvesting season is that prices of food items are a little cheaper. Yeah. So what has gone wrong this time around? What is different? We visited a number of markets, and just for the benefit of those listening to us on radio, for those watching on TV, this is the Tamale Yam Market. And we went to the Tamale Yam Market because in Tamale, you would have tubers of yam selling for, in some cases, 3 cedis, 5 cedis. And then maybe you have 3 or 4 of them put together selling for 10 cedis. Okay. What we are seeing is the yam market in Tamale, that it was having tubers of yam, in some cases, being sold for 10 cedis. This is where yam is grown.
Can you imagine?
Right?
Yeah.
Some 8 cedis. And it's quite strange to them.
Okay.
It's not normal.
Right.
Right? So this is the Tamale Yam Market. And we have a number of our market women going there to bring the yam down south to sell. Welcome. And it's expensive. So the food inflation at the farm gate is higher. I mean, these food growing areas. Yeah. We are seeing per the Ghana Fiscal Service data that food inflation is even higher at these places where food is grown. That's another issue to take into consideration. Okay. Then let's come back. Let's go to the Western region. The Western region as well. We visited the yam factory. Sorry, the yam market.
It's okay. Come into the factory. We understand. It's in
the yam market in the Western region. I want us to take a look at the Western region and what happened there in the yam market when we interacted with some of the sellers of yam specifically in that market. Take a look. It's a Takoradi market.
Just back we saying we when I had in back 15 and we turn 25. Back 25. Now the net turn 25 and we turn 15.
Where 55. Near DJ 50 cities. We so 45. Yeah DJ 40. Near this one. We know we nyamanti last year 50. But not to more 45. We swear 45 nyamanti last year 40. Where say what? 40 over 35 no more. No way so say what? Nipuna. We know the puna sia. Sia only say lot of fenya easy. Na Ghana so na yedin. The can ni ho. Okoto we no so let's say 100 4,000. Lot of fenya easy. But by this time I'm buyer. But I guess and September. But we know that we need 30 and not 25. I can say that. Oh, by the way, last quite 35. September 35.
Where 40, where 50. We season because I'm the bioqualas. Bioqualas, who for Eba? Who for
This is just for yam, okay? Tomatoes, we interacted with some of them as well, who gave us an indication. That place as well, one fruit, tomatoes, is 5 cedis. 5 cedis for one. The yam, he talks about a tuber of yam, the least you can get it there in the Western region, that particular market is 30 cedis. 35, you have a tuber of yam going for as high as 45 Ghana cedis. One.
Yeah, I have one here, 40 Ghana.
No, the yam that you brought is 40 cedis.
Yes, it's 40 cedis.
This
and
slim
it's
yam,
because I chose to buy 3. Otherwise, it said 50. But if I buy 3, then they make it 120.
You showed it briefly, but as we go on, I want to see the side. But this is so it's not strange what we were saying right now. So this tuber of yam Lawyer Matipegu is holding is
on display.
Yes, no. Let the cameras capture it. For those who are listening on radio, this yam, I think my full arm is bigger than this yam.
Your biceps.
See, this is 40 Ghana cedis.
Yes. And because I chose to buy 3, otherwise.
And where did you buy this?
Yeah.
This is the central.
This is Tema Station.
Tema Station.
Yes. And then
that is the central business district.
That's correct.
Which is supposed to be.
So what that means is that if this comes to the Madina or Abokobi market, it's going to be higher.
Yes.
Because of transportation.
Yes.
Because the people
50
who bring
Ghana.
50
somewhere around North Legon area, there 50 Ghana for one.
This yam.
Yes. East Legon. Yes. I bought this tomatoes 2 days ago
Ghana
for 70 Ghana. In East
for
Legon.
a tuber of yam.
Yes.
Yeah. That's why I took the picture.
Let's go to the Ashanti region. Yeah, we wanted to paint a national picture for this conversation, not just Accra matter. Let's go to the Ashanti region. We visited a market in the Ashanti region, and this is what the market women told us. Take a look.
35 million, and above from 8 million. Adaka. Black Nedi Consul, 12 million, and about 3 million a year.
3,500, now 8,000 cedis. Those that are cheaper, most of them are rotten. So you still make a loss.
So, Pabosia, and that's also Jane is in a boy, Nento City a year. Now, I don't want to cry. Jenny first 25 million.
Onions have become very expensive. Previously, we were buying them at 500 cedis. Now, 1,300, 1,500 cedis. If you don't have 5 cedis, you cannot buy even one small onion.
2 cedis, 5 cedis, 20 na last year by this time the nanka wo form kakra obi atimi 20 cedis onya bi 30 cedis onya bi kogu onum timi di fine ba ne no ne bo ayedin aba obi ahu se ba yeremu aba eso ne bo ayedin bo eda soso.
Last year by this time it was moderate, but now the yam has become very expensive. 25 cedis is the least.
Okay, so that's Kumasi. Kumasi, they said the yam there, the least you can get is 25 cedis. That's half of what you showed us.
Okay.
The smaller size.
Have you called me?
So that is for the Ashanti region.
Okay. Send me.
Let's come down south to the Greater Accra region. My colleague Joe Blaboja visited the Malamata market. At least, Lamatibebo, you gave us a situation at the Central Business District. Because where you bought this is where the people who go to the north to buy the yam actually come to sell.
Yes.
So the other satellite markets come to the Central Business District to come and buy and take it to the Abokobi, North Legon, Madina markets.
Yes.
And that place you bought this for 40 cedis.
Yes.
I can imagine what others are going through. And we all know
when you
what
go
is
to
happening.
the tomato market, right? The railway, the full box, yesterday I got it for 1,000. And when we counted, we got about 1,700 something pieces. When we divided by the 1,000, one tomato fruit goes for 1 cedi 80 pesos. So it appears tomatoes have come down. Because the last time, 21st of June, when I bought in Adolso, 36 fruits for 150 Ghana. But and when I divided, I got 4.20 cedis, 4 cedis, 20 pesos for each one. But yesterday, so the full box, when we divided, it came to 1 cedi 80 pesos.
So this person is saying that you have a lot of this.
Yes, for now, we'll come
look at the size as well. That's true. And let's come down here to Greater Accra region. Yam, and then we'll tell you about others as well. But this is the yam situation. Take a look.
20 cedis. I'm back. 25 cedis. And then we are 30 cedis. And then we are 30, we are 40 cedis. 40 cedis. The bay 2 months in first and we cry 2015 cedis. But it's a fresh one now until old ones. Tiama we ni bona koshoka. Omo complain say prices no go high. So sometimes e be free one me be do and card be say 3 days we come and say do first no dos. So and na ma na basa na.
As you just heard explaining to me, she's been giving us the prices of these yams ranging from 20 cedis to 40 Ghana cedis, and according to her, the increase is as a result of the increase in transportation fare and all of that. So if something could be done to ensure that the transport cost is reduced, she believed that the cost of the yam could come down.
1-2 months time in Abayeno, I said I did the
So you have the yam there. In fact, we interacted with some onion sellers as well and crates of egg as well. Now, this is the full picture. I didn't want us to have this conversation without having a touch of reality, going on the ground to know exactly what is going on. Okay, so number of you, our viewers, are asking us if this is just, yes, this is the 40 cedis tuber of yam that lawyer Martin Pebu is talking about. And in fact, some of you are buying this for 50 cedis in the satellite markets in some various communities. Let me welcome Professor Patrick Esuming. He is an associate professor at the University of Ghana Business School and also a development economist. Professor Patrick Esuming, good morning, welcome to Key Point.
Good morning and good morning to viewers.
Also with us is the General Secretary of the General Agricultural Workers Union. And he is in the private legal practitioner already, or in the making? In the making. In the making. Edward Karawe is with us in the studio. Mr. Karawe, good morning, welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Now, so when we're having this conversation before the show last night, you're telling me about this. We are in the harvesting season. So under normal circumstances, price of food items are supposed to be lower. So why are we experiencing this hike in food prices?
Well, good morning to those who are listening to us. This is an abnormality. We have a trend, and the trend has changed. So what it requires is for us to look for the reasons why the trend has changed. And if you look at why the trend has changed, there are a number of factors. One has to do with government's commitment to agriculture. Whether or not government is maintaining an investment level that is good enough for agriculture. If government investment is reducing, it is possible that total output would also be reducing because farmers will not be able to afford all the inputs to support production. The second thing has to do with galamsey, which is so major. All agricultural lands, either existing food crop lands, including cocoa, including oil palm, including rubber plantation, are all encroached. So if the existing farms are already encroached, maize, if cocoa farms can be encroached, how much more maize? If oil palm trees can be encroached, how much more maize? So, one, the existing farms are encroached upon. Two, the lands that are available to be used for production are also encroached upon. So, the overall land space that is available for food production is declining. The third point has to do with the rivers. You can't do farming without rivers because we are at a lower level of agricultural production. We are not using so much sophisticated technology to produce. Therefore, you need water from the rivers. If you take cocoa farmers, for instance, they can no longer use the river waters to
irrigate.
Not even to irrigate, to put in their knapsacks and then spray. Because the water is heavily polluted. So they have to carry fresh water from the house to the farm to put in those knapsacks to be able to spray. And again, you can also see that if you take the Bono regions, the BA area there, gradually they are moving away from food production. It used to be an enviable position for those regions, the BA enclave, for food production as a food basket. But recently, they are now moving away to cashew production. You know, so the lands available for food production is also declining. If you go to Western, Central, and Eastern, the food crop farms are also being used for oil palm production. They are also used for rubber plantations, and now heavily encroached by Galamsey. Now, climate change has also been here with us. The rains do not come the time that we want them, and when they come in quantities that we cannot control, or sometimes not desirable for production. So what do we have to do? Even we knew about this many years back, that's why we're building irrigation dams. Today, for over a period now, we cannot boast about any single dam that we have built. The policy to build one village, one dam was a good one. But today, if you go on the ground, where are those dams? They are just non-existent.
You say they are non-existent. Does it mean that nothing was done or no dugout or anything was done? Because government talks about some of these dams in operation and are serving the purpose. You are on the ground, so what's there?
Dams have different purposes.
Okay.
If it's a dam for irrigation, it must be able to contain a lot of water to be used at the time that you need it. Because irrigation, the system of irrigation in Ghana is the flooding system. So you need to flood the whole farm, and that takes a lot of water. So within the dry season, when you are doing farming, you need to flood. And those dams do not have water. So they don't have water at the time that you need them to have water, that in the dry season, because they are too small, I see, and they are built mainly within the northern zone. And high temperatures, long, many months of drought or lack of rain, they dry up. So they are just really not suitable for the purpose they were intended. If you build them for other purpose, no problem. But for irrigation, they were just not. So during the dry season, where you go, they are all dried up. The few that they say they have built are dried up. Then the major dams, again, it's so disheartening that we can talk about agriculture and we are not ready to invest in agriculture. The Polgo multipurpose dams, they should have been commissioned by now if we were on time, because it was 50 months the time it was launched.
Well, the explanation is that because of COVID, some of the funds that were expected to come in did not come in. And, you know, this was supposed to be an externally funded project, is it not?
Alfred.
So almost $1 billion.
The point is not about why we have not done. The point is that we don't have a dam today. We just do not have a dam, and there's no irrigation dam. What within the period the government has done was to do some rehabilitation of some of the existing dams, like the Tono Dam, you talk about the Pong and part of it. But we have not added significantly to irrigation agriculture. So all these things put together, low investment, galamsey encroachment, no irrigation, what you expect is that you have low output. And what we are experiencing is not just about theory. We have heard in the past that we're doing well in food production, in maize production, in rice production, and whatever. But it's also within the period that the poultry industry collapsed. And the main ingredient of the poultry industry is maize and soya. You know, rice. We were told many years back that by 2023, Ghana will be a net exporter of rice. But we did nothing. Today, we cannot say that we are exporting rice. Everywhere is imported rice. Even when you produce rice today, you'll find a problem to sell it. Because you are crowded out of the market with cheap, unhealthy imported rice. Can you believe that the entire northern part of the country is mainly receiving rice from Burkina Faso and Togo?
Northern region?
Yes.
But we grow rice in the northern region.
You grow rice.
At some point, we had even a rice glut. We had so much rice, you couldn't even find market for it. So how come you are saying that now we are buying rice from Burkina Faso?
The paradox is this. When you produce your rice, you will not be able to sell it because the cost of production and your selling price will be more than the imported rice. That creates the impression that there's a glut. And when you are also a processor and you have money and you think that you want to go and buy that rice and process it, when you process it, your cost of processing and then the selling price that you'll be giving out will be more than what will be more than the imported rice. So processors will also run at a loss. Producers run at a loss because at the time of harvesting, no one comes to buy. And when you also go and buy because you think you're a business person and you want to process it, you'll finish processing it, and then the cost is far more than the imported rice. You see? And you see, again, there are figures that are showing that there's a decline in imports of rice. But those figures could be the official figures. But the unofficial imports into the country, we are receiving rice from Togo, we are receiving rice from Burkina Faso, we are receiving rice from Cote d'Ivoire. And those type of rice are not, they are the smuggled ones, they are not necessarily recorded as official imports. So the official figures tell us that there's a decline, but in reality, on the ground, it is not so. And I'm telling you that we have the double star rice. When you hear the name and you think that the rice is coming from Burkina Faso, you are excited that, oh, this rice is produced in Burkina Faso. You look at where it is coming from. It's either coming from Singapore, it's coming from that place. So imports through those countries come in and they're cheaper. So you see the dynamics.
Right.
So really, for me, we have not, where we are today is not a surprise. It is what we put in. An investment is like this. When you invest, there's no guarantee that you'll get the returns. But where you don't invest, you are guaranteed that there are not going to be returns at all. So if you ask today, how much is Ghana government investing in agriculture?
So what will be your own assessment of the impact of the One Village, One Dam? Has it made any significant impact? You are on the ground, General Agricultural Workers Union. What's your own assessment of it?
Well, from day one, we had a position about it. And our view was this. The purpose it was to serve could not be done. How many villages are there in a district? And how many can you build? And what will be the cost? We asked those primary questions that tell us the number of villages, tell us the cost per dam, so that we know whether government could do it or could not do it. If I say that, Alfred, I will be able to feed you for the month, you don't still necessarily say that, oh, you can't do it. But if your cost of feeding is 1 cedi a day, 30 cedis a month, I can do it from my salary. But if your cost of feeding in a day is 500 or is 1,000, in 30 days, that is how much? 30,000. I cannot. So we asked those primary questions, and the questions were never answered. They went ahead, they were just dug out. The first rains washed some of the dams away. Some, they just went there with graders, dug something, and ran away. They never existed. So today, the question we should be asking those who are spending our money should be, they must take us and go and show us the impact of those dams, and whether there was value for money, and whether as a country we needed to spend that money, just like the Pologo dam, which is also there. We are not interested in technical words. This is mobilization money, this is that. The point is that money has been spent, and there's nothing to show about it for it.
Well, Professor Suming, it even gets a bit more concerning when you see the Ganska Service data indicating food inflation is even higher in some of these food-growing areas, is it not? I mean, from your economic analysis perspective.
Good morning again, and good morning to my co-panelists. I think, so a lot of things have been enumerated as to why food prices continue to rise, even in the middle of the planting and harvesting season. So generally, when you look at the price of food that will show up in the CPI, there's a price buildup. There are many things that will go into that. So there's the farm gate production. That will have its own cost. So usually that will be the cost of the input. And then there will be other costs that will build up before we see the final price we see on the market. And that's primarily post-harvest activities. That will include storage facilities, especially for perishable ones. That will also include transportation facilities. So even if you make an intervention on the actual production and the intervention works, and yet you don't make the investment in the other side, and transport costs gets high, and then it's very difficult to transport food to the main market because there are no roads, then you are still going to see high food prices. So there are many, so it means that when you are thinking about interventions to ensure, when you think about interventions in agric and food production, you have to consider the inputs, you have to consider farming systems, you have to consider storage, warehousing, and transportation. So in recent times, so in the previous, when the previous agric minister was there, he used to say, oh, planting for food and job has been very successful. And then when you ask him for evidence, he would quote what he sees as happening on farm gates. But, we don't buy food from the farm gates. We buy food from the markets. So even if we grant him that the program was successful, and yet food prices are rising, that should really be the final measuring point. So when we are judging the success of the program, it shouldn't be, oh, someone telling us, or the Minister of Agriculture telling us, so this is our production has increased. If our production has even increases, and yet we don't find the distribution channels, and that adds substantially to the cost, we shouldn't be running around saying the food policy has been successful. The other thing we know from what happened with the flagship programs. So I think my colleague has spoken about what happened or didn't happen with the dams.
One village, one dam.
But even the planting for food and jobs, we know from studies that at some point, there were some struggles. So even the input subsidies that were being given, at some point, they changed the mode of distribution that affected how the inputs were reaching the farmers. We also know there were challenges even with the distribution of fertilizers. Media reports documented several incidents of smuggling. But towards the, I think it's from 2022 or so, it's clear that even the subsidy that was being paid were not being paid. So all of those will lead to a build-up of the production cost. That is what will happen at the farm gate. So if the farmers struggle to get the improved seed varieties, or the fertilizers, or the other inputs, then that will mean the production at the farm gate will be lower in the first place. And then when we add the issue about distribution channels and then poor road to the food production areas, then that will even build up more. Now, what the transportation cost does is that ordinarily, even if we are producing all our food here, then you say domestic production cost should be the key driver. But when you bring in the transportation costs and the fuel elements, then it means that every time fuel prices are going up and transport costs are going up, things that are more subject to the exchange rate, then it means that even domestic food that we grow domestically becomes subject to the currency fluctuation. So there have been many things. The flagship agri programs were probably successful in the first few years. It hasn't been since. That's one aspect. And then the other aspect is that the interventions were not comprehensive enough, in the sense that we didn't look at the whole chain from production to distribution to the final consumer. So that aspect is also there. So all of these have contributed to the fact to we seeing the high food prices in spite of the interventions that have been. But
let me ask you a direct question on this. What would be your assessment of this Planting for Food and Jobs program that the former Greek minister, in fact, references as one of his successes, and this government also talks about it as one of the successes that it has chalked in the Greek sector? From where you sit, has it had any monumental impact in the agricultural sector?
So, well, I think we have to think about, when we are judging the success of that program, what criteria are we using? And so, the program, when you look at the program, all the programs together, you say on paper, these are great ideas. So, because if you look at the challenges of agri production, so, variability of rain is always a big issue. So when you say you are going to build dams, then it's a great idea. Then we've seen another one is crop insurance. So when they brought the gas out, you say it's a great idea. Then you look at the storage aspect. So when you say we are going to do the one village, one district, one warehouse, it sounds a great idea. Then we look at the input itself, because the quality of the input used and then the price of the input used are big issues. So when you say you are going to implement programs to improve agriculture, all those, so if you look at the combination of programs that were mentioned, they were great ideas. I think from the research I have seen, you look at in the initial years where the distribution were using especially the Department of Agri employers, and making sure that they are reaching the farmers. And then also the extension services were really being scaled up. So especially in later part of 2017, 2018, maybe some part of 2019, you do see the production numbers kicking up if you look from other independent sources. But the challenges emerge. The challenges very quickly emerge. I think one of the challenges we saw was that, we are giving farmers subsidized fertilizers. One problem is that we never made any plan to ensure that the fertilizers will be sustainable, because we were importing the fertilizers. So the moment the disruption in global supply chain started, and then we couldn't get fertilizers from other places, then suddenly, it became a problem.
True.
So when you put all of those things together, for me, the measuring criteria will not be what people are telling us, oh, food production has increased up to this point, but what is happening to food prices? And also, what are people getting the inputs? If you tell me that the production has tripled, or doubled or whatever you say. And yet, we are not getting enough meat to feed for poultry feed. We are not getting, and the price of maize are going up, and we are still importing maize. You can never convince me that the program has been successful. Of course, if you define a very narrow criteria for assessing success and saying, oh, look, food production is increasing on farm gate, and therefore it's successful, then you'll be praising yourself. But overall, I don't think the fact that food prices are rising and the fact that we've done this program for about 7 years and we are still food dependent tells me that the program has not been very successful.
I see. Now, and I'll hold you on a bit and while we come back in studio. And there was this question about sometimes it gets a bit surprising how some of the statistical representation by the Ghana Statistical Service reflects a disconnect with the reality. Professor Smith, do you feel that way sometimes? Maybe you don't go to the market, maybe whoever you send to go to the market, you get that sense that there's that disconnect of what the Statistical Service is saying and what the reality is on the ground.
Well, so yes, I may not physically be going to the market sometimes, but actually I do go to some markets, and then also even if the one that I'm not the one buying, you ultimately you get to know what is happening. But generally, I don't think there's a disconnect between what the number that Statistical Service put out and what people are actually feeling. Don't forget that those numbers are actually a reflection of prices. You know, the Statistical Service don't make numbers from space. They go to the same market that we go to, and then they collect the prices. I think one thing is that sometimes people use or misunderstand the inflation. So, for instance, in the period where we say food inflation has dropped from 55 to about 44 to about 22 or something, we should not misinterpret that to mean that prices are falling. Prices are still rising. So, even in the period where we say the rate of inflation has dropped from 54.1 to 23.1, it doesn't mean prices have fallen. Prices are still rising very quickly, except that if they were rising 54%, now they are rising at a slower pace. So I don't think there's a disconnect at all. I think people should just understand the concept. And also sometimes there's too much focus on the year to year, and we don't look at the month on month. For short-term price movement, the month on month gives you a fair idea. So for instance, even when we say year-on-year inflation is falling, but on monthly basis, inflation is rising, then it means that you have to look at the month-on-month, and it will give you a fair idea, short-term reflection of what is happening in the market.
I see.
So for me, I don't think the numbers don't seem confusing, or it doesn't seem it doesn't feel disconnected from what actually happened to prices. I said that maybe sometimes our understanding of exactly what the inflation means and what disinflation, when inflation is falling, what it means is where we feel that when inflation is falling, then prices should be falling, which is not the case.
Professor Suming, stay with me. And how much exactly was spent on planting for food and jobs? All of that came through Parliament.
Yes.
You approved the spendings on this Plant for Food and Jobs program.
Yes.
We're even now on phase 2.
Yes.
Phase 1, how much was spent in total?
Now, if you look at the figures, as I quickly quote from Parliament, the program was launched sometime in 2017 when the president was freshly inaugurated. It was such a flagship program. Even me, I had hope in it, because we were hoping that, for instance, if you come to my constituency in Sabdai, you could have 100 acres of block land farmed, either with maize and other vegetables. So at the end of the farming season, you can actually determine how much we got from that project. But that was not how they implemented it. They began to give subsidies to persons. Even it got to a stage, if we are not politically aligned, they won't give you. I think it was part of the problems why the program failed. Then 2, we've sunk in nearly 3 billion Ghana cedis. 2018, we gave them 400 million Ghana cedis.
For the PFJ?
Yes. 2019, we gave them 380 million Ghana cedis. 2020, we gave them 400 million Ghana cedis. 2021, we gave them 439 million Ghana cedis. 2022, we gave them 614 million Ghana cedis. 2023, we gave them 660 million Ghana cedis.
For planting for food and
so they call it phase one. Now, phase two, we are giving them nearly $1 billion to launch the phase two. So you heard the minister, for instance, say that he has put aside $40 million for when the flood happened last year. If you recall, he mentioned that there's some $40 million to deal with farmers who suffered the flooding in the lower Volta basin and all that. We don't know how that money, for instance, has been applied. What is happening is that they implemented the program poorly. There was no assessment. It's just like the Green Ghana project. We've spent millions of Ghana cedis claiming that we are planting trees. When you ask them how many trees you planted, they say we planted 40 million trees. Where are the trees? They can't point to one. Because when you go to the wild and plant trees without anybody curating the trees, attending to them so that the trees grow into proper trees, they are the mercy of the weather.
You are a member of the Public Accounts Committee.
Yes.
Was it an issue that you seek some accountability?
Yes,
this,
indeed.
Green Ghana.
Yes, because I am comparing such major policy by government that have failed. We also advise that, look, the Green Ghana project, plant the trees in lots. So you can plant, for instance, 50 acres of tree seedlings and get people to man it and tend it so they grow into a wood lot. That will become like a wind vane. They are not doing that. It's the same as planting for food and jobs. Corollary to this is the program to do one district, one dam. And you heard the minister for
one village, one dam.
One village, one dam. You heard the then minister for special initiatives, Howard Ocansey, say that if you give me 150,000 or 200,000 to build a dam, what kind of dam do you expect for me to build? In fact, that statement is the testimonial of how the project was implemented. So they go and scoop the surface of the earth and claim that, like he said, in a rainy season. And then you have groundwater feed into it, and water is collected. When you get to the dry season, when the dam is actually supposed to serve the needs of the people, it's dried out. And that's what they've done all over the place. So that program, again, which is supposed to be a complement to the planting for food and jobs, so we can have sufficient food production, also failed. So all the sister policies that are supposed to allow planting for food and jobs succeed failed. Then it dovetailed into his earlier point that in trying to secure our farmlands from Galamsey marauders, we failed. So you have farmlands that have been overtaken by Galamseyers. And they are degrading the land at rapid rate. So the person goes for fertilizer, he's supposed to apply, his maize farm is gone. What is he going to do? He will sell it to other people who are into other food production. And worst of all, cost of transportation. Look, when I was younger, to increase price of fuel in this country, it could even lead to a demonstration. So once you increase price of fuel, every other thing went up. The price of every other thing went up. So it was such a fetish thing when prices were about to be increased of fuel. It was done like a ritual, carefully done because of the repercussions. Now we are so fatigued by how rapid prices of fuel goes up, the frequency. So we are so inundated that we become immune to it. We are fatigued by it. Now we are buying a liter of fuel at 15, nearly 16 cedis.
True.
All right? So the transport operator has no choice but to increase transport fares. Transport fares or transportation play a major role in food distribution. So the cost of even moving the food from the growing areas to the customer-centered or the consumer-centered areas in the urban areas is so costly. That's how come today Martin will get this at 40 cedis. And it's the same with other food crops. Maize has become atrociously expensive. Maize, which is the mainstay cereal of our people, you can't buy. Meanwhile, everybody is capable of growing maize at his backyard. But that is not happening. Okra, which is which is present in nearly every food in this country, you can't buy. As for tomatoes, that's become like the poster boy of the food of is the symbolism of the food price increment debate. So I won't mention tomatoes. So Ocansey, in Germany, which is arguably one of the biggest periodic markets in this country, in my constituency, Bever Market, B Market, which is in Peki, the women are crying. So is Kwando Market, so is Hohoi, so is Ho, so is Sketa, so is Amnoga, so is Dabala.
And this is supposed to be the harvesting season?
Thank you. So even if in the harvesting season, and I like what Professor Akilus, my senior, who is the government statistician, I like what he's doing. Professor Nim. I like what he's doing because, you see, he's giving us other statistics that we used not to have. Today, he says that nearly 2 million Ghanaian youth are idle.
Yes.
They're out of school, they have no job. Some are unable to even go to school. So the problems, it's become, the matters are snowballing into a certain social upheaval.
This is the annual household income and expenditure survey that the Ghana Census Service put out, that about 1.9 million youth aged between 15 and 35 years are not educated, unemployed, or having any form of training in the third quarter of 2023.
And that's for the third quarter. So imagine the figures that will be turned out for the last quarter, and imagine the figures that will come out for 2024, which is actually the election year. So as a people, we are in danger. When these 2 million, even if a quarter of that, if they get up one day, we'll be in a mess. So we need to address the problems. And government must stop taking our money and sinking it into programs that are yielding no results. If you ask government to account for this 3 billion plus the extra billion we're giving them, which is over 4 billion in planting for food and jobs, they cannot account for it.
They can't account for it?
They cannot. They cannot. In the same way, if you ask a government, you claim that you spend nearly 25 billion in a financial sector cleaner. When you ask them for the expenditure details, they are unable to tell you. How many consultants, for instance, did you recruit in dealing with a 9 billion portfolio? As a result of which you claim you spent 25, now it's even 30 billion because they've added some additional 5 billion.
It's 30 billion?
Yes, the government cannot account for that. Tell us how you spent 25, 30 billion in cleaning up the banking sector. They can't tell you. So they put out a figure. You ask for the details, they are unable to tell you. You take 3 billion to do planting for food and jobs. Tell us how productivity, food production has increased as a result of implementing this. They can't tell you. He has the figure for the growth for the agri sector. It's less than 1%. If I'm right, it's less than 1%, 0.7%. How do we sink this much money in the agri sector? As for the cocoa sector, we can't. So the agriculture sector has a major problem. And yet they will tell you, oh, it has succeeded. Whimsically. Like that, and that's it.
Well, Matipebo, because you bring a touch of reality to this conversation. Yes, because honestly, in the end, that's the fundamental consideration. They didn't want us to have this conversation without bringing in what people are feeling in their homes, watching us right now. Cost of living is biting. In fact, fuel prices, that's why I started with the 3 Fs that define the global economy. The fuel, the food, and then also the finance. Fuel prices went up. Take a look at this. And I did an analysis from January to now, how much fuel prices have been increased.
Excellent.
And how it's impacting on our pockets. We want to put that on the screen right now. In January, we started this year with fuel prices, a liter of petrol selling at 11 cedis, 24 pesos. Now, if you want to understand how much you spend on a gallon, you multiply a liter by 4.5. So what you see on the price boards on the front of any fuel station, just multiply by 4.5 and you see it. In January, you were spending just about 51 cedis on a gallon of petrol, and just around the same figure on a gallon of diesel. Now, fast forward to July, in this second pricing window, you are spending 67 Ghana cedis, in fact, 68 cedis, almost 70 Ghana cedis on a gallon of petrol, and then about 69 Ghana cedis on a gallon of diesel. The difference between January and now is about 18 Ghana, in fact, is in the case of petrol, 17 cedis approximately on a gallon. And if you have a vehicle that, depending on the tank size, you probably have to buy 876 gallons. You multiply and you see how much you're spending now. And then that's of diesel as well. So that's for fuel. The next F, which is for finance, in fact, these are the list of taxes on the 1 liter of petrol or diesel that we buy. Almost 4 cedis out of the money you pay for a liter of petrol is taxes. All taxes, about 13 components, levies and margins. Then when it comes to finance as well, look, that state of the pocket defines exactly how you talk. That's the reality. And the check that you had on the market with this one.
Yeah, it's crazy. There's one which is 35, and the one that I bought 35, I don't know, I left it in the car. When I measure it to this, I see that the 35 cedis one is more expensive because the extra, this 40 cedis, when I look at the extra size, oh yes, I see that.
I think we need to be weighing.
Thank you. Thank you. That's where we should
become Europeans.
Yes, that's where we should be starting from.
It's not a question of being European, but getting money,
value for money.
Thank you. That's one of the key points we should be making, because these variations in the prices is unsustainable. Yeah, because if you compare the 35 cedis one to the 40 cedis one, you see that there's a lot more. And you see that, it's arbitrary. So we should be looking at standards, Ghana Standards Authority coming out with laws. Of course, it's not a one-day thing. No. Gradually, then we will educate the market women, etc., right, to gradually get...
Market men.
Yes, market men. Because, you see, plain truth is that, listen, let's say it plainly, otherwise we will not make progress as a nation. A lot of this cost of living crisis can also be attributed to the sellers, the traders. Because you see what we've seen. Like the tomato thing I said, when I bought the full box for 1,000 Ghana and divided, I got one for 1 cedi, 80 pesos.
Well, so factor and the other elements of
yes, but we are stretching it. We are overstretching it. That is where the problem is. So that's why I said, let's go through gradually and see the price build up. We are overstretching it. How can one tomato fruit in railways near CMB cost 1 cedi 80 pesos? Then I come to Tema Station and the same fruit less than a kilometer. So less than 3 kilometers, and the same fruit is costing 3 cedis, 4 cedis. How? What kind of transport is this? What kind of transport? So the market queens, and you see, this then brings up the issue of the Kalabule days. You see, I'm not encouraging or supporting what Rawlings did, etc., with the Makola women, etc., the hoarding. But let's look back in our history and ask the psychologists, perhaps there's been research. There is something about the psyche of the Ghanaian trader and supernormal profits. Yes, you buy something for 1 cedi, then they say, oh, you usually triple it. Yeah, you talk to traders, etc., various businesses. When the thing is 1 cedi, they'll tell you that, so you triple it or quadruple it. You never hear like, oh, you add 25% margin. No, it's in hundreds. So you hear this popular saying that, listen, rather than buy treasury bills or invest in government bonds, give your money to a trader. It's a very common saying. that rather than, the Professor Sumi, I'm sure you know a bit about that, right? Yes, they'll tell you that rather than buy government bonds, give your money to a trader. The profits we make in trading are, beyond reason. Shylocks. You see, one when the, was it last year? Sikan Pedidi, when the president made that speech, you see, he referred a little bit to our traders, but because the president, like, how do we say in English? Like, none why he did that. So we're targeting the president, but he referred to our traders, that our Makola women, shouldn't we be looking in that direction? He's not able to say they are also responsible. But if you understood him, you would know that he wished he could say a lot more about our Makola women and generally trading. But because he himself, like we say, so he's the main person we are holding responsible. But truth be told, our traders, if we hold them up to scrutiny, we see that we can make a lot of savings. Because I would never accept it that you buy something for 1 cedi 80 pesos and just about 3 kilometers down the line, what kind of transport translates that same thing into double the price and triple? It doesn't, and even that for me as a listen, I just bought, can I call myself retailer? More or less, like I bought as a consumer. But for those market women, because they buy in bulk, it's even cheaper. It's cheaper.
But it doesn't take away the fundamentals. Yes, but I think we are overflogging the fundamentals and allowing our own citizens to cheat us. That's the same thing with the KT Hammond cement regulation. I know Honorable Dafiamekwe doesn't agree. Honorable, don't hit me back. Oh, no. You see, because I'm supporting KT that in the process. Yes, I'm supporting KT so that in the process we'll get cement prices cheaper. You see the fuel one. So you see, I always mention the fuel example. Mr. Ocansey, you've shown the fuel prices. So you've seen that we can tell what percentage is taxes. That's the same thing we want with the other goods. So we all know that today, it means that we can reduce the taxes. So you see, because there is that transparency in the fuel pricing build-up, we know that, today prices are high not because of world market prices, but because the president failed to diversify the economy. So you see, that's the truth. Cedi depreciation is actually one of the major reasons why we're experiencing this. Yes, but increase. You see, yes. But at least we can always hold the president's feet to the fire because he said when he comes, there's going to be, we are moving from what? Taxation to what? Production. You say you are moving from taxation to production and planting for food and jobs. You are giving 300 million, 400 million. This is peanuts. Honorable Dafiamekwe, please give me, let me read it again. There's peanuts. 400 million a year for farming. Are you joking? Can you imagine 2018, 440 million. 2019, 380 million. 2020, 400 million. That's Ghana cedis, so please, we are not saying dollars. Ghana cedis. 2021, 439 million. 2022, 614 million. 2023, 660 million. This is a joke. No wonder we are not feeling it. It's a joke. You want to modernize agriculture and you are giving these peanuts. They say when you give peanuts, you get what? Monkeys. Is that also? Is that the same? These are small figures. These are peanuts. Peanuts. You can't modernize agriculture. Mr. Carraway, am I lying? Can you modernize agriculture? This is a joke. No wonder.
But this peanut, as you are claiming, that I've given to them, how did they even spend?
Exactly, so it's gone into people's pockets.
So if they had even given them more, then it means more would have been wasted.
So I think that's the fundamental question there. So even with the little that was given, how was it expended?
Excellent. Sure. So that's also another problem. So that is too small. The figures they've given allocated for planting and planting for food and jobs are peanuts. No wonder we are not getting the desired impact, right? So please, let's set up in the next administration. Let's have a proper agricultural revolution, a proper one, modernize. We all want to farm. I'm doing piggery with another lawyer, right? We want to expand. We'll do more. Because we in secondary school went to the farm. As kids, we went to the farm. So when I see that, look, the graduates are home and are unemployed, I'm like, come on, give me this. Where's the man? NDC time, they had this man, Vincent Kouagbenu. Yeah, he did very well.
National
exactly. Service. So when this government came, I was like, oh, can they retain that man Must it always be winner takes all? Because I saw Kuagbenu and how the National Service, he used them, the farms, they produce a lot.
In the dry years especially.
Exactly. So I said, can't you retain Kuagbenu? Retain him. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. So you come and job for the boys. We have the men. We have the men. Say now it turned out to be Guru boys. Huh?
Well, but you see, in the end, I look at it, and this matter of the PFJ, Public Accounts Committee.
Yeah.
At least you are a member. Yes. In good standing. You haven't been changed, right?
No, I haven't.
That one, you are still a member of Public Accounts Committee. Would you seek answers from the Agric Ministry on how these monies were expended? These monies, even though people say they are small.
These are peanuts. Come on.
Peanuts.
These are peanuts.
At least we should know how the peanuts were spent. Because if the impact we cannot measure on the ground, then it raises fundamental questions about where the money went to. Would you seek those answers for us?
Of course I will.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Ocansey, so let me just remind ourselves, because the Constitution is very important. The constitutional basis for everything I've said is the Constitution. So Article 36 says that the state shall take all necessary action to ensure that the national economy is managed in such a manner as to maximize the rate of economic development and to secure the maximum welfare, freedom, and happiness of every person in Ghana, and to provide adequate means of livelihood and suitable employment and public assistance to the needy. Please, let's repeat. Secure maximum rate of economic development and to secure the maximum welfare, a welfare economy, not just capitalist, demand and supply. So you see, welfare economy, freedom and happiness of every Ghanaian of every person in Ghana, and to provide adequate means of livelihood and suitable employment and public assistance to the needy. So as long as that 10% of our population can't find food to eat, government is failed. You have no business saying you are building more roads when you haven't fed the people. You have no business buying V8s when you haven't fed the people. You have no business bathing in the sky. President Kufuor hiring the jets and bathing in the sky when you haven't fed the people. You have no business undertaking these other things that are not relevant. You have no business having a government of 86 ministers with V8, so much for them, entertainment, etc., when 10% of your population cannot find food. No, you have no such business.
When we don't have CT scans in our hospitals.
And let me bring Nana into, please. It ties into something that Kwesi Jr. said at the Tamils Memorial Lecture yesterday. And I want to recall that quickly, and then Nana into you come in. That portion about the welfare of the people and why that should be the concern of any government that wins power in this election ahead of us. This is Kwesi Jr. yesterday at the Tamils Memorial Lecture, the 12th Tamils Memorial Lecture. Take a look.
What the people of Ghana deserve most is for their new government to work assiduously to improve their access to health, education, housing, nutrition, and transportation. That's what we need. What is the point of packing people into jail when we are not able to meet the needs of the people? The most important assignment of the incoming administration, the new administration, must be to make life more bearable for our people. That is the yardstick. That is the hallmark. That is how the new administration would be judged.
And if ties into Matibebo's earlier session and what he just said, that the preoccupation make life bearable for the people. We are all living in this high cost of living situation, is it not? Now you need to bring you at this point. And what should be the major consideration or the thought of any government at this point going forward?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think this discussion, I mean, whether you like it or not, takes you right straight into Alan Chamartin's Great Transformational Plan. Straight. We're talking about agric specific. We're talking about, even within agric, particular projects and programs, how they were handled. We're talking about the macroeconomy. I mean, we're talking about food prices, all of these issues that directly fall in the laps of government. Now, mind you, government is government. Whether it is NPP or NDC, once you are in office, you are government. So you take responsibility. Over the last 32 years in the Fourth Republic, we have had governments from the NPP and the NDC, 16 years apiece. Now we are heading to another election. And on the eve of the election, these are the realities we are discussing about the cost of living, about the state of our agriculture, about the fact that we cannot even afford to feed ourselves. And we're also looking at some of the issues that have been occasioned in government's attempts to deal with these matters. I am very happy Lawyer Kpebu said we need an agricultural revolution. He used those words, but he's still insisting that he's not ready to support Alan because Alan resigned from MPP too late. But you see, it doesn't change the capacity of the band. You see, now let me just outline for you a few of the issues that respond to the problems we are discussing here.
Yeah.
Mr. Is it Karwe? Karwe mentioned investment in agriculture. Honorable MP has also referred to it and made reference to particular investments, planting for food and jobs, and what was the value for money we got. And we're all talking about investments in irrigation projects and what has been the outcome. And I like what Professor Subing said. He said, look, whatever you invest in a certain particular undertaking, what is the result? That will tell us whether the program or the project succeeded or not. So as we speak today, one of the biggest problems that Alan has identified and articulated as being the reason why our agriculture, for example, has failed, and many other sectors have really not done so well, short-term view of the things we do, unsustainability of the policies that we put in place, poor management of the investment itself, poor public accountability of the investments we put in, and the weak leveraging of the role that the private sector can play. Now, we're talking today about 3 billion cedis having been put in planting for food and jobs. Incidentally, we all complain about it, but Honorable Dafen Bakpo happens to be an NDC MP. So immediately, someone will look at it from the political perspective and would also refer to SADA, for example, and say, but we didn't get value for money also for SADA. Because when I checked, the only difference is that really the quantum of money that has gone into planting for food and jobs is so huge. But if you talk about 34, 35 million Ghana cedis for SADA tree planting, and according to the information I found, SADA tree planting was also supposed to plant 5 million trees. And at the end of the project, they accounted for 700,000 trees. Haven't spent all the money anyway. Then you go to SADA guinea fowl, 15 million cedis. At the end of the project, there was no guinea fowl anywhere. Now, this is exposing the failure of policy, both of the NDC government and the MPP government. Maybe you are talking about quantum, but the point is that now we are at a point where you need to build an integrated policy environment, which we haven't done so well. So if we are looking for a situation where the new government, the incoming government, should give us better accountability for the investments in agriculture and other sectors, issues of integrity and issues of corruption also come up.
Of course.
Because you see, when we talk about some investment being peanuts, and I quite disagreed with my friend Martin here. Look, if you invested 400 million Ghana cedis,
it should be dividends.
In Ghana today, if it is managed properly, there has to be some value.
For the year.
Of course, I do agree that the investment we need to make in agriculture and in other sectors is huge. But the whole point is that the policy environment is flawed. Now, government wants to do everything by itself. Alan Chamating is saying that, listen, government cannot find enough taxes to build roads. Government cannot find enough taxes to build cocoa plantations, cassava plantations, oil palm plantations, maize plantations. These are very profitable, productive, and prospective private sector ventures. All government needs to do is to set out a certain policy framework that makes it possible, that gives assurance to private sector investment, whether it is internal private sector or external private sector. But when the policy environment is flawed, when the environment is seen as being flawed with even public sector corruption, it becomes difficult for the sectors to operate. The issue here is that Alan is telling us, listen, I've given you a little idea about what government needs to do. If government puts together a simple paper, just paper, with sound ideas, that gives direction and regulation and incentives and responsibilities, general regulation, in a very important sector such as the automobile sector, government didn't need to spend 1 peso. And within less than 5-6 years, you have 6 world-class automobile giants established in Ghana today, producing brand new cars. You can do the same for agriculture, if the policy is correct. You can do the same for road construction and infrastructure, for the energy sector. You can also give a clear policy direction for dealing with public sector mismanagement and corruption. Now, if you do these things and the policy environment improves, we're not going to sit in Ghana having our rivers and water bodies all polluted because of Galamsey. And Mr. Kairi was talking about it, and it is a very serious matter. I mean, I didn't even think about the dimension where farmers have to carry water from the house in order to go and mix the chemical, which they will use to spray or to... I didn't even think about that bit. So the water bodies close to the farming areas are so very badly damaged.
Yes.
And the MPP is telling us that after the MPP presided over Galamsey, which was, of course, started from the NDC time anyways, it's always been there. It took a certain turn by the time the MPP took over. With the current situation of our farming lands, with our water bodies, with our rivers, and the state in which we find ourselves, MPP is still telling me, Ohininto, and Ghanaians that we should still vote for them. NDC couldn't stop it. MPP couldn't stop it. So if we want a paradigm shift, then we should rather pay attention rather than keep discussing the problems and the issues over and over and over and over again. We're talking about the factors that affect food prices and so on, inflation. And I like what Professor Suming said. It's difficult to simply pick an inflationary figure and make a general statement. But, of course, we do have the statistics.
Indeed.
And they help us to make some general assumptions of our situation. Now, when you look at the broad averages from 1992, by the time the NDC administration, forget the PNDC, was exiting from an inflation rate, a general inflation rate of 10% in 92, 2000, Kufuor taking over, 40.24. What I checked is right now. 2008, when Kufuor was exiting, MPP was exiting, it was 16.5. By the time NDC took over, that was from 2008 to 2016, 16.5. Within that period, NDC did quite well, 17.45. By the time MPP took over 2017, it was about 17, 18%. By 2020, it went down very, very drastically, 10%. As we speak today, we are hovering around 32%. So the trajectory of managing the whole economic environment, the macro economy, which has to do with our agricultural production, which has to do with value addition, which has to do with export earnings, which eventually will determine how much we have in our kitty to be able to deal with whether it's fuel prices or imported goods that we need, medicines and so on and so forth. We have really fallen so low. So if we are talking about the need for change, it is not just a slogan. Our realities are telling us that in the agricultural sector, in the macroeconomic sector, in governance, in almost every sector of our living today, Ghanaians need a drastic change. That drastic change cannot be business as usual. Because in the Fourth Republic, we've seen business as usual. So I am saying that let us be real with ourselves. Those who are expecting some major radical change, should John Mahama come back, I don't see the evidence. Where is the evidence? Because John Mahama has a track record. Bawumia has a track record. Alachematin has a track record. And in fact, when you check these three top politicians today, I believe there are others in the presidential race. If you check their track record, if John Mahama tells me I'm going to bring an agricultural revolution, I say, what shows? If John Bawumia tells me I'm going to bring agricultural revolution, I'll ask him, what shows? If Alachematin tells me I'm going to bring agricultural revolution, I will say, yes, I believe you because I saw you bring a revolution in the automobile sector.
Okay.
There are difficulties that we have which we need to deal with at the macro, top level, presidential level, policy level.
Okay.
So if we keep talking about these things, we say we need change. Even up until right now, John Mahama hasn't put his manifesto before us. They've made a few promises here and there. They've put out a few slogans here and there. 24-hour economy and the rest of it. Alhaji Bawumia has put out a few slogans here and there. Digitization. I mean, clearly, what we are talking about here is not a matter of slogan.
Okay.
The issues that we are faced with in terms of the cost of living, in terms of the prices of food, in terms of the performance of agriculture and other sectors, it is not a matter of slogan. It is a matter of a detailed, clear plan which Alan has presented to this nation, and he has listed it in detail.
All right.
So, what we are talking about today has been the talk for 3 decades, 3.5 decades in the Fourth Republic alone. If we need any kind of change in our leadership, it's got to be not the usual. It's got to be something radical. Well, I think Alachematin represents that, not just in talk, but what Ghanaians need today.
16 minutes after 10, you know that you just indicated that you will launch your manifesto, the NDC, in the coming weeks. Yeah. Yes, I'll give you that. Okay. But just also let, not into the inflation, I think, I was just trying to draw your attention to it, but you kept on and on. I think the June inflation is about 22.8%. But I think that you got the figures mixed up a bit.
22? Which figures?
The PPI was what was released this week, which is about 23.
So 22 instead of
25.9.
25.
No, there's 22.8% for June, the June inflation. It is the PPI that was released this week, which is up from 23.6 to 25.9.
Okay.
But it's 22.8.
But really, I mean, we are within the same region anyway.
I get the point.
Yeah.
I just wanted to correct that.
Thank you.
We'll be back shortly after this quick break. Daniel Yao Demelovo, who's a former Auditor General, is joining us after this quick break. We have a conversation as well tying into all of this because, you see, the directive principle of state policy says the most secure democracy is that which is able to meet the basic needs of its people. We'll be back shortly after this quick break. Stay with us.
Good afternoon, Auntie. Afternoon, darling. One chilled bottle of Nero Orange, please.
You want cola, orange, lemon, vino, Nero.
Wow.
Cola, orange, lemon, vino. I'm gonna feel it cool, it refresh your body. Nero Cola, orange, lemon, and Bovino. New non-alcoholic flavored drinks from Nero Beverages. This advert is FDA approved.
Yes, we're back. Wines of South Africa, WOSA, is back in Ghana for the biggest wine show in Ghana on Saturday, the 20th of July 2024 at Labadi Beach Hotel in Accra. Time at 7 p.m. sharp. Come and taste the best of South African wines right here in Ghana. Remember, Wines of South Africa Grand Tasting Event 2024 is proudly brought to you by Wines of South Africa and John Williams Consult Ghana in partnership with Labadi Beach Hotel, TV3, 3FM, and AmayalDebra.com. Reserve your tickets at wosa2024.eventbrite.com or call 0553-271032. Remember to come celebrate with Wines of South Africa on Saturday, the 20th of July at 7 p.m. at Labadi Beach Hotel in Accra. Wines of South Africa. Welcome to our world of discovery. Strictly by invitation and reserved for those 18 years and above.
Everybody starts to move.
Dreaming of Asia with your family? Let's make it happen. Join Global Wings Travel and Tours for a 9-day all-inclusive tour of Malaysia and Singapore from September 9th to the 18th, 2024. Experience the best of Malaysia and Singapore. Visit famous tourist sites in both countries. Take car cable ride, try local foods, and relax in luxurious hotels. This incredible package includes return air ticket, Malaysia visa facilitation, 9 nights in a 4-star hotel, daily breakfast and dinner, all taxes, airport transfers, and travel insurance. Join Global Wings this September and create memories that will last a lifetime. Book now by calling or WhatsApping 0553 688 398 or 0550 188 181.
This is the home of one Alhaji who has been suspected allegedly for killing the 2 boys.
On June 22, 2024, Kakmayele Tamale was shattered by the disappearance of 2 boys, Abubakar Abdul Latif, 3 years old, and Arafat Dauda, 4 years old. The community was gripped with fear and anxiety.
By this time, you have seen them here.
Days later, their decomposed bodies were found in an abandoned car, sending shockwaves through the community.
The decomposed bodies of the boys were found abandoned in a vehicle at the spot where I am standing.
Families are heartbroken, demanding justice. Join Godwin Asediba as he uncovers the heart-wrenching details of this tragedy and the community's quest for answers.
Kapayele's Lost Boys airs on Monday, July 22, 2024 at 6:40 p.m. on TV3 and streams across all our social media platforms.
Back to Key Point here on TV3. We're live on 3FM 92. Gentlemen. Oh, Nana. It's okay. We're live on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, and DSTV channel 279, all across the world on 3news.com. Now, in fact, there are a number of messages on this matter which I'll deal with, but just in a minute. so that I'll just have...
asking that His Excellency John Dramani Mahama hasn't demonstrated his preparedness to return to govern better. He has done that. Because, for instance, in the agri sector during his time, we revolutionized production of cocoa. So much so that even roads leading to the cocoa areas were specially treated under the Cocoa Road Project. This government has come to abandon that. We moved cocoa production from 700,000 metric tons to nearly 1 million by the beginning of 2017. Today, it's plummeted.
No, but cocoa left about 1.1 million.
Yes. So for 8 years, if it plummeted, he's improved it to about 1 million. That's better. But now it's plummeted to nearly 450,000 metric tons, more than by half, with over 600 million investment. Now, His Excellency is saying that he will come with big push. The big push agenda by way of policy is to revolutionize even trading, manufacturing, and the agri sector. So he should come and team up with us, and let's move the country forward.
The man has already put out a complete development agenda. The complete plan. And you don't even have a plan.
We have. Come and team up with us. Let's also have a team up with us.
Thank you, gentlemen. Now, rounding up on this, I mean, in the end, it's just about what has to be done going forward.
Yeah.
Because if this is the harvesting season, I can imagine how the lean season will look like for all of us. That's my concern right now. So what should be done going forward?
Well, let me say that I believe it's not in all things that we have short-term solutions. There are some things you cannot do much. You need to just go through the pain. Where we have reached in our agricultural production, nothing can be done in the short term from now until the end of the year. But the most disturbing thing is this. If you look at the 16 regions, out of the 16 regions, 13 regions are experiencing galamsey. Now, what we have done to ourselves as a country is that we have shut ourselves out of the ability to construct irrigation dams. When you see every irrigation dam is constructed on a river way, and all the rivers are polluted. You see, so if you go in there, in the 13 regions, and you want to even construct, you have all your millions of dollars to construct your irrigation dam. You construct that irrigation dam, and it will be filled up with what? Galamsey water, which is not good for agricultural purpose. Just recently, we were told by Cocoa Board that they had a loan of 250 million from African Development Bank to irrigate cocoa production. And that would have been another push up in cocoa production, whereby we don't depend on only the rain. Unfortunately, when they asked the Ghana Irrigation Development Authority to do the checks up, they said no, the waters cannot be used. So they had to return that loan, 250 million. Now, that is the most painful thing. And once you don't have rivers, vegetable production is going to go down completely because vegetables are very sensitive. And you must use water close to the one that you drink. And we those in the cities, sometimes we cherish vegetables coming from the villages than in the cities. With the belief that maybe they may use dirty gutter waters to water the vegetables here. Today, it's no more the case. Because even the vegetables that are coming from the rural areas are also polluted with galamsey water. And there are some farmers who completely stop. So you see that going forward, what government can do is there is no commitment today. And I'm not sure, maybe I've not heard, whether government is even talking about stopping galamsey. They are not talking about it. And whether there's even a concrete plan on ground to stop that. So any party that seeks to rule us must be able to tell us how they are going to deal with the galamsey menace, and that they will not even participate in galamsey themselves.
Well, Mr. Karawa, thank you very much. He's a General Secretary of the General Agricultural Workers Union. And we'll go on the telephone shortly and speak to Daniel Yahademelovo, former Auditor General of the Republic of Ghana. And this conversation actually leads us into the next, which is about the Afrobarometer survey and the fight against corruption, because a number of elements of corruption that we all made reference to in this issue of, for instance, Platform for Food and Jobs and the lack of accountability. Now, if you look at the Afrobarometer survey, and we'll put portions of the Afrobarometer survey on the screen in a bit, that you'll follow quite closely. You have a number of respondents, a reduction of it, saying the belief in democracy going down. And in fact, 67% of Africans believe their governments are failing in the fight against corruption. And then also, if you narrow it down to the Ghanaian perspective, you have 9 in every 10 Ghanaians also making the point about the country heading towards the wrong direction. We'll put those on the screen in a bit. Also, when we talk about the voices of young people, voices of African youth are not fully represented in the policy-making process. That's what you see on the screen there. Support for democracy, there was a decline by 6% over the last, they are doing a decade-long analysis, so from 2012 to 2022, from 82% to 76%. A rejection of military dropped by 18%, meaning that a lot more people now even thinking about the whole idea of a military takeover. That's on the African continent, not just specific to Ghana. Satisfaction with democracy also reduced by 23%, from 74 to 51%, meaning that a lot more people are not satisfied with the outcomes of democracy that we are getting. And Mr. Daniel Yademelovo is joining us. Good morning to you, Mr. Yademelovo. Thank you for joining us here on Key Point.
Good morning, and how are you?
I'm well, thank you, and I hope you're doing well too.
Yes, I am fine.
Now, this outcome of the Afrobarometer survey, certainly from where you sit, not surprising, what you would say about the people's level of disappointment with the outcomes of democracy?
Yeah, I think I can agree with people because if you are doing something and you are not getting the necessary results, then it means you may have to lose confidence in it. So if people are losing confidence, it's because we are not gaining the fruits or the benefits of the democracy.
I see. And there was also a bit about the fight against... Hello, sir.
I'm listening, yes.
On the fight against corruption, and that's what we're putting on the screen right now. In fact, there are the number of respondents who indicated that 77% believe corruption has increased. 75% believe corruption exists at the presidency, and 55% believe all persons at the presidency are corrupt. Does this have any touch of reality? Do you believe in this?
Yeah. You see, they say that if the fish will get rotten, it starts from the top. And again, in public financial management, they say it comes at the top and drizzles at the bottom. All the key decisions or policy decisions emanate from the presidency. So if the presidency is not in support or do not want corruption, they will create an environment where corruption cannot thrive. So if corruption is thriving or becoming worse, then I can agree with the position that the people have, that the presidency is itself corrupt. Because if the presidency is not involved in the corruption, they will not wait or sit aloof for it to thrive here.
But every time such surveys and, Afrobarometer, CDD's survey, and then the likes of even Global Info Analytics all come out with these surveys. The reaction is that these are, for instance, the perception index, and then also what the Ghana Integrity Initiative does. They say it's about perception and people's opinion, and no touch of reality. That's the position that government takes.
I know, but why is the perception rather not that they are not corrupt? Why is the perception that they are corrupt instead of they are not being corrupt? And are they saying that we don't read from the newspapers, we don't listen to the radio, we don't see the Auditor General's report, which are all full of corrupt or evidence of corruption? So I don't think that this is just a matter of perception. It is reality. When the actual corruption index was also conducted, didn't it point to the same thing? Are you able to take the newspapers of a week or listen to the press for 2 or 3 days and issues of corruption are not there? So where they can decide to play the ostrich and say it is perception. But it is true, we are told that about 12 million was paid for Parogu Dam, for which no work has been done or commenced. Is it not true? Are we not told by the Auditor General that about $2 million have been paid for SkyTrain, which does not exist? Are we not aware of the Auditor General's report on the COVID-19 and the issues raised in there, and they call this perception? Well, if it is still perception, then I don't know what will be reality.
I see. But the president, anytime this comes up, has always maintained that he has done well in the fight against corruption. I want us to play, and Mr. Domolovo, kindly listen to what the president says about his fight against corruption and his investment in the fight against corruption in this country, how he has gone about it, reason why he disagrees with you when you say that he has not done well in the fight against corruption. Take a look.
Every single alleged act of corruption leveled against any of my appointees has been investigated by independent bodies. It is not my job to clear or convict any person accused of wrongdoing, despite the effort of some to tag me as a clearing agent. That is the job of the courts and the law enforcement agency. Mindful of the enormity of the task in evaluating anti-corruption interventions, strategies and action plans, an evaluation team of diverse expertise, including those in political science, economics, communication, and gender, has been constituted to evaluate the major NACA.
So that's the president, Mr. Domolovo. He says, well, whatever allegation of corruption against persons within the presidency whom this survey's respondents say are corrupt, he's referred it to the appropriate agencies to investigate. So, well, that's what he has had to do. Would you have expected anything more than that?
So is that what he meant by I'll protect the public purse? When he was shouting I'll protect the public purse? All that he was going to do is to refer the cases and even tell the people accused of the corruption that we know after the investigation your integrity will be intact. And I heard him saying that it is not his job. Was it the job of the other presidents when he was shouting that people were corrupt, or the presidents who were corrupt? So this double standard, I don't want to be part of it. The truth of the matter is that the verdict comes from the people, and people say things are not going well. I think a true leader, what you do is to respect the views of the people and say, oh, sorry, I thought I was doing my best, but given your position, I'll do 1, 2, 3 to arrest or correct the situation, instead of claiming that, no, I've done my best. Haven't you seen that if you look at the corruption perception index, we are stagnated at a failure zone? Is that the best thing to do? Even if you stagnate at a pass zone, you will say, okay, but the level we have failed. It is a failure zone. So if he thinks he's fighting to the best of his knowledge, that is his verdict. But the verdict of the people, I think, supersedes that of his individual position.
I see. Now, what would be your own assessment of the president's fight against corruption, as against what he said?
It's very dismal. He's not fighting corruption. You see, one of the things that the president fails to know or to understand is the fact that, yes, I for one, I'll credit him for establishing or financing anti-corruption institutions. But that is just a small aspect of corruption, the fight against corruption. It is when you create the environment where people know that there are going to be consequences from his behavior. So anybody who crosses the red line will be hit. That is what creates the deterrence. As it is now, We are being told, people who are high in government, they die and we are told how they are able to acquire state properties and even win it out. We are being told the millions that they have in their account. And he doesn't talk about it, he doesn't say anything and just tell us it is perception. Well, I think that he can be more proactive to find out how many of the existing appointees have government property. How many of the existing political office holders or even public servants have acquired state land and state assets and etc. at what cost? If he is able to do that and retrieve these items, then we will say that this man is seriously fighting corruption, but not to just play the office. I believe that he knows that the 30 million Ghanaian verdict is definitely superior to his individual position. Thank you.
I see. Well, but and going forward, if we talk about the right things being done in the fight against corruption, what do you expect that is not being done now? Quickly.
What I expect is that it doesn't matter who is involved in the corruption, the same thing should be done. There must be consequences for corruption. We must make the anti-corruption institutions independent and strong. We must take corrective measures. When the Auditor General comes with his report, which is full of corruption and corruption-related issues, actions must be taken. In fact, actually, the Public Financial Management Act requires the Attorney General to provide a status update on how he has dealt with issues raised in the Auditor General's report. We need to see that report. He's supposed to submit it to Parliament and copy the Auditor General and some other people. That is what will let us know that, yes, government is doing something about corruption, and that is what I expect that the government does about corruption.
And your verdict is that the president's fight against corruption has been abysmal?
Very, yeah.
Same. Zadomalovo, appreciate your time. And maybe in 30 seconds, what do you mean by commercializing the fight against corruption? What should that be done?
Well, first and foremost, corruption affects all of us, even including the corrupt. It creates a problem for the entire society. And I think, given what has happened over the years, we can't trust the government in the fight for corruption. So they should mandate individuals or firms who will be registered or permitted by the Attorney General, because he has that mandate under Article 88. Permit them to say, look, you have been licensed, you can investigate and prosecute corruption. So that does not become a burden of the government. The only motivation for these individuals and firms is that if you are able to recover the money, maybe 10 or 20% of the proceeds that you have recovered will be given to you. So it becomes a situation where nobody is safe, because the fact that you are my friend and I will not investigate you does not exclude the next person or person from investigating you. I think if we go that way, people will live their lives earning money out of fighting corruption, and the deterrence that we are looking for will be at the peak or maximum. Thank you.
Would you support the call that anybody seeking our mandate should go beyond just the asset declaration that we cannot see to the public or the publication of the assets that they own?
Exactly. Until we do that, actually the declaration is useless, because the Auditor General is not God. So if we have about 50 to 60,000 government officials who have to declare their assets to the Auditor General, how on earth will he know that the declaration is complete or accurate? So the check is when you have to publish it, because people know how many houses maybe Mr. A has in Accra. So if he publishes and there's a house which is not in there, then people can say, we know this house belongs to him, and he didn't include it. And of course, the liabilities as well. That is the most important one, because it's very difficult for you to know somebody's debt or liability. But then the commercial banks or the lenders who gave the money to the person will see it and say, but my debt is not in here. So that is how we check the assets and liabilities declaration and make it more effective, instead of just keeping it in the office of the Auditor General, which is not accessible to anybody unless there is a litigation and the court request for it. So the publication of it is very key. 2, the verification of sale is also very key. If we don't verify the assets and liabilities declared, people can make anticipatory declarations. When he is appointed the chief executive or the minister of whatever organization, he may say that, well, I have a piece of a plot which I intend putting a 5-story building on. So he declares or she declares it as the asset he or she has, because not verified. By the time she or he is leaving office, if she has that 5-story building on the land and you challenge it, you only say, bring my first declaration and compare to my second declaration. So verification is very important and it must be there. Ironically, if you are aware of the PNDC law, which talks about political parties and public office holders in 1992, that law actually provides for the things we are asking for today, that it should be made public.
Okay. Mr. Damelovo, appreciate your time and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, too. All right.
Thank you. Daniel Yao Damelovo is former Auditor General. Touch on a number of things. We'll go for this quick break. When we're back, I guess in studio we'll have their take on some of the issues that Daniel Damelovo talked about. Stay with us.
It's going to be the most extraordinarily emotional moment.
She certainly has everyone's attention. She's made a slow start here.
She came out ready to go.
She's got the world record and she has the world too.
This Olympics, we're celebrating the gold in all of us. Stay connected to GoTV to watch our athletes go for gold in the Paris 2024 Olympics. Only on Supersport. GoTV. Love it.
Yes. Star 712.
Picture this. Come in and greet. Yeah. And now you were back in Greece. To say, why you fit on millionaire? Yes, the luckiest at Aroma. To say, about from Massa Echeman. Yeah. Now check this. Sister Abna, aka Kobe Hima. The luckiest at our room. Queen B.
Yeah.
Boss lady back up there. Hold on to your seats, folks. Such anyway, it'll be you smooth. Where you enter your friend will upgrade. Luckiest at our room. And the best part, that with the luckiest, Obia or a shot to a good life. And I'm talking to you, me, your girlfriend, your ex, your neighbors, your landlords, and even Goro boys. And no one is over dialing with lucky number. Star 712. No.
Oswaldo ticket to win in the community draw or the grand draw on the 30th of November 2024. The luckiest is regulated by the NLA on the Caritas platform, not for persons below 18 years. TNCs apply.
Yes, we're back. Wines of South Africa, WOSA, is back in Ghana for the biggest wine show in Ghana on Saturday, the 20th of July 2024 at Labadi Beach Hotel in Accra. Time at 7 p.m. sharp. Come and taste the best of South African wine right here in Ghana. Remember, Wines of South Africa Grand Tasting Event 2024 is proudly brought to you by Wines of South Africa and John Williams Consult Ghana in partnership with Labadi Beach Hotel, TV3, 3FM, and AmayalDebra.com. Reserve your tickets at wosa2024.eventbrite.com or call 0553 271032. Remember to come celebrate with Wines of South Africa on Saturday, the 20th of July at 7 p.m. at Labadi Beach Hotel in Accra. Wines of South Africa. Welcome to our world of discovery. Strictly by invitation and reserved for those 18 years and above.
And everybody starts.
Now is an opportune moment for investors to consider the remarkable investment opportunity presented by the Floria Residence, the pinnacle of luxury living in Cantonment, offering a range of options from executive studios to lavish penthouses, including 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and 3-bedroom apartments. Amenities and services includes round-the-clock security services, dedicated play areas, a bustling commercial zone, state-of-the-art fitness facilities and gym, a well-appointed conference room, an elegant rooftop sky bar, and a breathtaking rooftop infinity swimming pool. Additionally, residents benefit from the convenience of a secured 3-floor underground car park, while those residing in the ocean view penthouses enjoy unparalleled vistas. We are located opposite the Laboni Palace Mall, Accra. Contact us on 0595700008.
Your favorite programs on TV3 are switching times. Sports Station, which reviews the best sports action on Monday, is now at 5 p.m. And GPL Express eases you into the weekend at 2 p.m. on Saturday. So same shows, revamped, more analytical, but more engaging and better on TV3.
Welcome back to Key Point. And let me go straight to Lawyer Martin Bebo. It certainly cannot be business as usual, right? With how things are playing out. You say that whoever would support the publication and verification of the assets of himself and his appointees, any flag bearer will do that. How's your vote?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Public declaration.
Yes.
We
it's
all
not
need to know what you own.
Yes.
And what your appointees own.
Yes, we have to publish because the corruption, and the corruption affects even the economics. So the whole of the economics, when you have corrupt leaders, it affects how the economy is run. Like this current situation. Yeah, because corruption is high, economics, the principles are not allowed to work because it's family and friends business. So if you tackle corruption, you give fresh oxygen to public officers to be able to work. Because, of course, some of the public officers themselves, they are enablers in the corruption. It's usually a syndicate. Yes, you have the civil servants join in and other public servants, etc. So when we tackle it wholesale, then it will improve the economics. Because, you see, with corruption, when it comes to even procurement, they'll rig. They'll rig the thing and give their favorites because there are various ways of going about the rigging. They'll do single source. When MPP was in opposition, then Gabi said that single source procurement is thievery. Single source is thievery. Single source procurement, or we usually say sole sourcing, is thievery. But they came into government and they are doing the same thing. So it affects the economics. So we need an asset declaration law that makes sure that the assets of all these public officers, those in that category, are published. And preferably online, so that, like I usually like to say, people in Navrongo, people in Boko, people in Axim, wherever, all parts of this country, at the click of a button on their computer, they can check the assets of a certain public officer they know, okay, to check if what is being published online tallies with what they know in their community, right? So that any discrepancies, then they can report. So we need this law. The last time the president promised a world-class law. That was in September 2023 at the Bar Conference, right? That was in Cape Coast.
Yes.
Almost 1 year on. We haven't heard anything. The last time I heard it, the Attorney General said he was in charge of the bill. Well, the Attorney General we don't want to receive a bill from. The Attorney General who should have resigned by now. So the President needs to constitute somebody else. Is it any surprise that the Attorney General hasn't brought out the bill? Is there any surprise? Yeah.
So that's the conduct of public officers?
Yes. The Attorney General said he was working on it. You see, he's been pussyfooting because now practically we will not get that law because ask Honorable Dafemepo, they are also going on break like the lawyers. Honorable, you are coming back in October, right?
Yes.
Right. So you see, practically, Akufo-Addo is denying us the code of conduct for public. Exactly. So and that's why I'm peeved that the IMF, that the bill wasn't taken into consideration in this second review, but the Bank of Ghana one was taken. How do you take the Bank of Ghana one and leave the code of conduct for public officers? Because this one is more wide-ranging. And so you see how the complicity of the IMF, they will tell you that IMF, this Bretton Woods institution, they are also a great part of our problems. They've never wished us well. If they did, Ghana wouldn't be here. No, it's not only Ghana. All these African countries, these Bretton Woods institutions are the same way they are. They'll pretend to help us, but in the end, they do very little.
But they also say that they are there.
That's how come
we go to them to go and beg.
No, but it belongs. So, the Western world developed on our forefathers slavery. They developed on our resources, slave trade, gold, etc. So they owe us.
Well, the issue is that let's manage our resources well, and so that we will not go there again the 18th time. We are there for the 17th time. There are many who believe that this may not be the end.
Absolutely. That one is clear.
Honorable, please. It certainly cannot be business as usual. Fight against corruption.
Yes, of course, because
we've done
you see,
this so many times.
For instance, a government that cannot account for 500 excavators that they took from Galamsey. It's such a scandalous matter. I keep saying that excavators are monstrous machines. But today, Parliament has been asking the government that in your so-called declared policy of fighting Galamseyers, for which monies were expended on that operation, and you took away people's machines from illegal mining sites and brought them to Accra, where are the 500 excavators? Where are they? Where are they? That is why you see that the perception of rejecting the military from interfering in politics has dwindled from 86% to 68%. That is, it means we are moving towards a parity. When it is 50%, it means half of the people think that it is okay for the military to take over. It's a dangerous thing for our democracy to try. Look, this government will pay, for instance, $11.9 million for no work done on Pualugu Dam.
Right.
The dam site is empty, and yet nearly $12 million is gone down the drain. When you ask them to account, they cannot. And in law, we do what we call quantum merit basis. You pay people for the work that they've done. No work has been done, and yet we've given money. $2 million, a certain SkyTrain project. We paid $2 million.
So, Public Accounts Committee, what are you doing?
400 tricycles disappeared.
Yes, in the northern region.
So tricycles like the guinea fowls.
Hold on. Okay. These matters are contained in the public accounts report. That is the point I'm making.
Okay.
These are not matters that I'm whimsically conjuring. These are matters that the Auditor General of the Republic of Ghana has gone into and determined the figures. And we are asking government to ask the entities to account or hold the officers who in those capacities have dissipated public funds in this manner. They won't do it. So the government must go for Excellency John Dramani Mahama to come and look into the books.
Will you support
Alhaji Dr. Bawumia can certainly not look into the books of President Nana Akufo-Addo.
Will you support the public declaration of assets?
Why not? I am willing. In fact, there's nowhere in the law that bars declaration. I'm saying we are being timid.
Okay.
We are being timid from publicizing the details. The law doesn't ban publication. So why is it that we are unable to publicize it?
Right.
You understand? So I am for publication any day.
Okay.
And the law requires that when you enter the office, you declare. When you are exiting, you declare. So people can measure what you got in the course of occupying that office. That is the test. So if you don't publicize, how are people able to measure?
Well, thank you. Nelson Roxon Dafiamepo is Member of Parliament for the South Dai constituency, also a member of the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament, and
now,
then also
yes.
Your favorite programs on TV3 are switching times. Sports Station, which reviews the best sports action on Monday, is now at 5 p.m. And GPL Express eases you into the weekend at 2 p.m. on Saturday. So same shows, revamped, more analytical, but more engaging and better on TV3.
This season, Ghana's Strongest is back with a powerful twist. This is the Dual Edition. Watch as our able-bodied male and female athletes compete in this season's Ghana Strongest, showcasing their strengths, endurance, and determination. Who will rise to the challenge and claim the title of Ghana Strongest 2024? Catch all their action, the triumphs, and the unforgettable moments. Ghana Strongest 2024, Sunday 4 p.m. only on TV3. Ghana Strongest, the power to do. Brought to you by
Deluxy Acrylic Paint, Kivo Foods,
Dragnet, Mixie
Trutelli Caliper.
The search for Ghana's most beautiful heats up. The ladies will showcase the beauty, culture, and traditions of their regions in the celebration of elegance and charm. Who will impress the judges and win the hearts of Ghanaians, earning the spots in the top 16. Watch as they justify their inclusion and discover what makes their heritage unique. Don't miss the excitement this Sunday on Ghana's most beautiful, redefining culture and beauty.
Imagine a day where the entire family will converge with music, food, family, water park enjoyment, and exciting activities like water slides, go-karting, horse riding, jet skiing, canopy walk, and so many games with the entire family. Welcome